man speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another Friday Pirate live stream. We've got Polly here. She's sitting up rather nicely, although we could get her a little bit better. There we are. See, she's a little bit better. She's feeling much better since she was under the weather last week. We'll see if she can hang for the whole live stream or not. I've got my San Pellegrino. I have my Muppet cup, which has more San Pellegrino in it, because of course it does. Have you considered? It's important. And I've got some tea. Actually, I've got lots of tea, but my main tea over here is some Puka 3 ginger tea. Very nice. I got to get out to Table Rock and buy some more Table Rock tea. Should just drive out there and see them. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Let's read from my favorite book of aphorisms. It's probably the only book of aphorisms I have, so it must be true. We'll turn to a random page. If your anger decreases with time, you did injustice. If it increases, you suffered injustice. Oh boy, that resonates with me quite a bit today. Yeah. Well, education is a psyop. That's what that means. Yeah, I like that. I like Taleb. Taleb's good. Good stuff. It has been one heck of a week. People are going crazy, left, right, and center. I think everybody should listen to RJ. RJ says buy merch so Polly can afford a cracker. Yes, please. Polly does need her crackers. And yeah, we can't buy crackers without merch purchases. So I have in fact had a meeting about the book here, and we are probably going to be doing a book launch sometime slightly after Labor Day. So we have to get everything set up on the store, and we'll be doing that. And then we also have to work on the workbook. The workbook's most of the way done. I have to edit a bunch of stuff and whatever. But and then Castle will have to edit the rest of it, because that's what he does. Why does Polly keep falling down? Stay up, Polly. You gotta stay awake for most of the stream. There we go. That's better. So this week has been nuts. I mean, more and more people are going more and more crazy. I kind of warned everybody about this. Like, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse from here. Don't worry. People are just losing their minds because they don't understand the world, and they're realizing they don't understand the world. All the things and all the people they were following are just wrong, and they don't know why. And fair enough, but also they're trying to understand stuff that they have no hope of understanding. No big screaming match almost on the Bitcoin call this morning, because these people, a dollar is only worth 95 cents. And I'm like, no, a dollar's worth 100 cents. I don't understand. It's always worth 100 cents. Why? Yeah, but I'm like, what are you measuring against? And then they're like, oh, we're going to have a stable coin. I'm like, So the fiat currency, which you're mad about and trying to solve, is the thing you're pegging your quote non-fiat, even though it's definitely fiat currency to, and you're happy about. Like, I don't, you guys are very confused about the world. So yeah, how barter works, why a token for Walmart or Amazon makes sense, and why it doesn't make sense for the state of Wyoming to have a crypto token of some kind. So yeah, it's just these people have these systems. These systems have been working for them for some number of years, and now they're breaking down, and they don't understand why. And it's never occurred to them that maybe it was a bad idea from the beginning, and the momentum that you see is temporary. And that's one of the problems. Education is a psyop. So, what do I mean by this? Well, look, understanding the term education is actually rather difficult. It really starts in the 1530s, like all bad terms seem to. Child rearing, also the training of animals, from the French, education, and directly from the Latin, educationem. The nominative is educatio. A rearing, training. Noun of action from past participle stem of educare. See, educate, right? Originally of instruction in social codes and manners, meaning systemic schooling and training for work from the 1610s. Okay? It's kind of important. Educate, mid 15th century. Bring up children to train. Bring up, rear, educate. Also Italian, educare again, right? Bring out, lead forth, right? So you can already hopefully see the problem. The problem is that what we're calling education, the way we're using the word, is very different from how the word originally came to be. We are using education only as training, right? Now, if we jump to something better like formation, 1200s, forme, fiorme, semblance, image, likeness, from the Old French, physical form, appearance, pleasing looks, shape, image, way, manner. From the Latin forma, form, contour, figure, shape, appearance, looks. Right. Okay. So now that you hopefully understand a little bit about what's going on, how are people using the term education? Where they're using it as a magic boogeyman to scare people about why, we'll say, they tried to bring up their children well, or people in general are theoretically trying to bring up their children well, and it's not working out. In other words, we parented them fine, but actually the world came around and corrupted them, and it's the school's fault. Now, I am not here to defend the public school system. I think it's pretty terrible. And I'll get into where that comes from and why this is important. But this issue has nothing to do with the public school system or homeschooling or private school or any other option, of which there are many. There's Waldorf schools, there's Montessori schools, there's all kinds of ways of obtaining what we now refer to as education. The idea that the answer is fix the public schools and send everybody there, or just send people to private schools, or just homeschool is absurd. It makes you a crazy person. Don't be a crazy person. There's no reason to be a crazy person. The first thing to understand about our confusion around how we use the term education is the following. In the United States, we have two distinct so-called education systems. Higher ed, right, which is everything past high school, which we are the best at, period, end of statement. Just have been for decades, far and away. We have the best higher education in the world, and we have more of it than anybody else, despite our small country size. And then we have K through 12, grammar school, whatever you want to call it, grammar school and high school, however, middle school. Our K through 12 schooling is horrific. It's a nightmare. But we treat these as the same thing. The thing that we're among the worst at and the thing that we're definitely the best at are not the same thing. I don't know why I have to say this, but I feel like I do. And the thing is, we have collapsed the education system into propositional training. Now, how did this happen? So, you have to forgive me. I have lots of notes. They're kind of all over the place. How did this sort of collapse happen? Well, this is where we talk about something that Dr. Jordan Peterson's talked about, the Prussian model of education. Right? And so who started this? Well, King Frederick started this. Right? And a guy named Hacker was also responsible for the Prussian model of education. And that shaped US education because the Prussian model was compulsory. Excuse me. Already interesting. Tax-funded public schooling. Right? And Prussia was among the first to implement that sort of a system for the children. And we copied that. Here's where the danger comes in, which we didn't copy right away. And I would argue when we didn't copy this part, everything was fine. Standardized curriculum and age-based cohorts. Right? Uniform curriculum based on age and grade levels. Very dangerous. Montessori doesn't have it. Waldorf handles it differently. Right? And a focus on national identity and civic duty. Now, this national identity and civic duty thing aimed at creating disciplined and obedient populace, that is dangerous. It's dangerous. Right? So this is where we, run into a problem. Because we've adopted this stuff, we have turned education into a procedural tyranny. So you go from the propositional, I'm using John Vervaeke's 4 Ps, even though there's some problems. These two we don't disagree on. There's a propositional tyranny created by something before the Enlightenment, probably caused the beheading of the king, the collapse of the hierarchy, roughly speaking, right? That's basically the Reformation. That causes all these problems with propositions, very focused, sola scriptura, clear as day. Clear as day, couldn't get more clear. Well, propositions don't do anything. How do you turn propositions into repeatable, useful action? Procedures. That's what they're for. Right? Procedures can easily be conveyed, although not precisely and accurately, maybe, easily be conveyed through propositions. Right? There's better ways to do that, but whatever. That gets back into how to fix education, which I'm not there yet. We'll get there. So we have this propositional tyranny, creates this procedural tyranny, instantiates as education. And now we have a fight over education. So why are we fighting over a propositional and procedural tyranny and control over that tyranny? Oh, what a very interesting way to look at this. I thought so anyway. And it's my live stream, so there you go. Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at this. So the reason why is this other part of the meaning of education from the 1530s: child rearing, instruction in social codes and manners, right? That's the problem. That's the problem. We're supposed to be directing or guiding. We're supposed to be forming our children. So we're calling it education, but we're recognizing, we'll say unconsciously or subconsciously, we're recognizing that it's formation. It's the act of creating or making, forming, formation, fashioning, creation, directly from Latin formationem, nominative formatio, a forming, a shaping, right? We're shaping people using the propositional and procedural tyranny from King Frederick. He had a very clear goal in mind. If you have a clear goal and you need a large population to be put towards that goal, a propositional and procedural tyranny is what you need. I agree. Also, don't be evil, so don't do that. It's not that hard, or so one would think. So the critiques of the Prussian model in particular is that it promotes conformity, obedience, and a factory model approach to education, prioritizing compliance and rote learning over critical thinking and creativity. Now, critical thinking in this context is used correctly. Critical thinking is not to evaluate ideas that you are given. That is not what critical thinking is ever. Sorry. It just was never used that way until like yesterday, and I wish we'd stop misusing it. Critical thinking is to be critical of your own thinking process. Now, because your thinking process is formed mostly by your education from the outside, that would necessitate that being critical of your thinking process is also, to some weird extent, but important extent, a critique of how you were educated. That is fair. But if I talk through an idea with you, critical thinking is not you thinking about my idea that I gave you. That's not critical thinking. That's you being a jerk. That's what that is. Don't do that. Either accept what I'm saying or don't talk to me, because I don't want to talk to you anyway. It's too time consuming. It's not that hard, right? Just don't be a skeptical cynic. I have a whole video of that on navigating patterns. You can watch it there. So this is the problem. What this leads to standardized testing. What's that? It's propositional tyranny. A test is testing your propositional recall or memory on a bunch of abstractions, because language is an abstraction. Age-based grades, centralized curriculum decisions, right? In the US in particular, right? So there's some good and some bad here. Being able to standardize and get with the group and do things, that's actually important. Otherwise, we can't cooperate. So the problem is, if we're rebelling against education, and what we mean by education is formation, or our ability not only to be formed or informed, because by the way, that's not a language coincidence. I hate this timeline. I hate it. It's also the ability to form together with your group to be bigger than you are, which is super important because nature's bigger than you and it'll wipe your ass out if you don't get help. So yeah, people want to hijack the propositional and procedural tyranny that we're now calling education. I don't blame them. The problem is that we have one and it's overly standardized in the US, at least at the wrong layer of the hierarchy. Nothing in the US is supposed to be standardized at the federal level. Sorry, just the government was designed to not ever let that happen. This is a problem. That is a big problem. That is a much larger problem. I don't want to harp on that problem when we have a bigger problem. Why is it that suddenly this is so important? And you can say, look, Mark, we had the Department of Education, which only recently got dismantled, and we had this movement towards standardization independent of the Department of Education. Excuse me, all along. And that's had this trajectory, particularly in the US. So absolutely. Absolutely. That's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. That is an issue. Maybe it's important, but I'm not sure how important it is. I'll tell you what the real issue is. The real issue is that if you understand education as formation or informing your children, both in their thought and their way of mannerisms and how to act, but also in the way of how to cooperate together, which we're not doing, that job is not the job of the schools. That job is the job of the parents. So we need to bifurcate, if you will, these two issues. Teaching etiquette and manners belongs in a school. That's how you cooperate. Sorry. The foundations of good cooperation are teaching manners, etiquette, how to get along, how to behave in a group, because how you behave in person, alone by yourself, how you behave with your family, and how you behave in a group, especially a group of strangers, is different. Also, how to make friends, all this stuff is wrapped up in having a school system. But the formation side, that has to happen at home. The reason why it doesn't happen in the US is because of Dr. Benjamin Spock. Among others, I'm just going to pick on him because I don't like him. And it's my live stream, and I can do this however I want. So, not all of Spock's work is bad. It's kind of funny that he named after a character in Star Trek. Actually, I think it's the other way around, but whatever, doesn't matter. He's promoting flexibility and affection and advocating for parents to be more nurturing, responsive, right? And urging them to feed babies when they're hungry instead of on a rigid schedule. That's actually wrong, by the way. And to comfort and hold children when they cried. That might be decent, not all the time, right? Individualized attention, totally wrong. He advocated for parents to be more nurturing towards their children as their individuals. Yeah, that's completely wrong. Completely wrong. Right? Children are not individuals with unique needs, interests, and abilities. Right? And parenting should not adapt to each child's developmental stage. Now, I know what he meant, but no. Yeah, you shouldn't treat a 4-year-old like a 6-year-old. I don't think that would go well if you tried, though. So I'm not sure you need to tell somebody that. That would be my argument. And this sort of helped to usher in an era where open displays of affection and emotional responsiveness became mainstream in American families, influencing generations of parents during the baby boom and beyond. Interesting timing, huh? Isn't it, though? Some critics, especially conservatives, blame Spock's approach for fostering permissiveness and a lack of discipline, associating his influence with rebellious youth culture of the 1960s and 70s. How weird. Spock repeatedly denied advocating permissiveness, stating he had always recommended firm but loving guidance. What the hell does that even mean? So, what we're really talking about when we're fighting over education and, in particular, the schools, is we are talking about a fight for the formation, let's say the proper formation of our children. Now, if you do this correctly at home, the schools aren't going to be a problem or as much of a problem. So, I'll give you an example. My very bestest friend in the whole wide world, his kid got expelled from the school, from the public school for a day. Why? Because the teacher was spewing global warming nonsense in the class and he stood up and said, "That's wrong." And the teacher was like, "How dare you question me?" Blah, 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 blah. And eventually got thrown out. And then the teacher called the parents and they had this meeting. And of course, my friend said, "Yeah, that's wrong. And you won't be teaching my kid that. And if you're going to do that, have him leave the room and teach it to the rest of the kids. That's not our responsibility." We could argue about that. Um, but you're not to throw him out of school for that. And the school couldn't do much about it except comply, which they did. So you have a lot of control over what happens in the school, irrespective of when people talk about this in the abstract, it's always like, if you don't pay your taxes, the IRS can take your house. The IRS almost never takes anyone's house, and it takes years for that to happen. And you have to be a jerk to the IRS for them to take your house. I don't like the IRS. I hope they all burn in hell, and I'm sure they will. But also, like, it's not really. Same with the schools. The schools are not the big bad guys. They're easy to manipulate if you know how. There's a few bad schools. You're going to have some bad experiences. Welcome to life. Things are imperfect. Get over it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. But homeschooling, that's not the answer for everybody. Private school, obviously not the answer for everybody. Right? Public school only, obviously not the answer for everybody. Right? But for the most part in the US, most public schools are not horrible. They're not. So we're fighting over the formation of our children because parents didn't take up that responsibility. And the really important part about this is not maybe what you might see, which is to say, yes, you should be formed in school as well in terms of group interaction, particularly with strangers, and how to make friends, right? So that's manners and etiquette again, right? We should throw in some quote learning along the way. Sure, whatever. I don't care. I don't care. I didn't learn anything in school. I absorbed all my material independent of school. I assure you that. That's definitely true. Like, school had nothing to do with what I know now and can recite and have memorized. Nothing. Right? Aside from teaching me some of the skills as to how to do that on my own, which I did. Different problem. Different problem. If you don't have a formation from your parents, and you do have a formation from the school, and that formation creeps down from the group level and into the how you should act, well, you should be nice to people who have different lifestyle choices from you. What? Are you sure? I'm not sure about that at all. I should be polite to them. Should I be nice to them? No. I'm just going to tell you right now, no. The answer is no. That's just wrong. You can't be universally nice to people. Wrong. And you shouldn't. If Satan pops up, you don't go, "Well, sir, how can I be nice?" No. Do not do that ever. You're making the world worse. Cut it out. You be polite. You don't be nice. Period. End of statement. Universal niceness is evil. That's what it is. Sorry. Not my fault it's that way. It is that way, though. Don't do that. If you haven't been well formed at home, when you get to any kind of school, even if it's homeschooling, what's going to happen is you will not know a good formation from a bad formation at any layer of the fractally self-similar reality that we live in. Sorry. Not going to happen. You have no contrast to see. So you need a formation at home. You'll get some automatically, whatever, but you need a strong formation at home to resist when that formation, say, encroaches from the group into the person. One of the problems, and I've seen this many times, is that some homeschool kids get indoctrinated very easily in the workplace. Very easily. Because they can't tell. They don't even know what's happening because they have no contrast. They were homeschooled. If you are too sheltered, there's an aspect of what Peterson talks about with the devouring mother in this, by the way. If you're too sheltered, and not all homeschool, maybe not even most homeschool people are too sheltered, but if you're too sheltered, when a new ideology comes along, you're going to buy right into it. And I honestly think that there's a good possibility that that's why the dinosaur phenomenon was so huge. That's why people were like, oh, I was all religious and stuff until dinosaurs. And then they were so cool. And then I asked my pastor, and he couldn't tell me whether or not dinosaurs were real, or he denied they were real. But I went to the museum and saw a fake thing that actually wasn't a dinosaur and was probably put together wrong. And now I believe the dinosaur because that's my experience. Well, fair enough, but your parents didn't form you with the story of creation and didn't bring you back with critical thinking to creation as the starting point. Like, all this stuff was here before you. That might be important. How did it get here? That also might be important. Do we need a sophisticated, logical, rational, reasonable story for that? No, we don't. We really don't. You really don't need that. Most of the things you think you know or understand or whatever, you have a very poor story of. If somebody would like to challenge me on that, I will open this up later. You can come on and I can prove that to you for anything you know, because there's a trick. And this is what bothers me. I'm like, the simplest trick in the world, but whatever. Everybody thinks this is magic. That's fine. I'll just magic it away then. It's really easy to do. So we've got this way in which we've collapsed education into this propositional training from the propositional tyranny and then turned it into a procedural tyranny. That already happened. And we don't have the different thing, and we need both. I'm not saying propositional tyranny bad or anything like that. I mean, you need propositional tyranny in the military. You've got to follow orders. I don't know. This isn't that 0% hard. Right? You've got to follow the procedures in the military. 0% hard. Zero. This is not hard. Formation, the difference is it's not just about forming or informing or any of that. Formation is about shaping towards a final cause, or telos. That's what's missing. Make final cause great again. Formation is about shaping towards a final cause. When you don't get that at home, you will get that somewhere else. The parents are not shaping their children with a final cause as to their outcome predetermined. Now, does that mean arranged marriages? Probably not. But maybe. I don't know. Can that go too far? Name me something that can't go too far, or shut up with the world's dumbest critique. Because really, that's the world's dumbest critique. What do we mean, or what do we want to talk about when we talk about education? I mean, teaching. Improper teaching is about showing, exemplifying, and giving someone else something to mimic. Can you teach somebody with propositions and procedures? I would argue no. You can turn them into an NPC. You can make them into useful little robots. It's necessary for a bunch of things like brushing your teeth, going to bed at the same time every night, totally necessary for those things. You have to give people something to mimic. The worst way to do that is propositions. The easiest way to learn a procedure is to watch somebody else do the damn procedure. It's not that hard. I mean, it's tough on the person that has to slow down and do the procedure, maybe modify their normal procedure because they make all kinds of shortcuts because they know how. I get that. Get over it. This is important. Showing people how to do things is important. We have two generations of people who don't know how to do things, as in most things that need to be done, they don't know how to do. They have traded that for the engagement in a fantasy world powered by electricity and transistors. Now, I'm a technologist. I love computers more than you love anything else in your existence, I assure you. However, using them to create fantasy worlds for you to live in, probably the most evil thing ever. Just at scale, for sure. Just going to tell you right now, internet bad. Abso-freaking. I remember the moment I thought they were going to shut the whole damn internet down, or at least get rid of the Mozilla Foundation. I distinctly remember this. I was living in Brookline, Massachusetts. Maybe I'll go into that story someday. Not today. So this Prussian model comes in. It's there. We love to copy Europe because we're retarded in the US, and we just still love to copy Europe, even though we need to stop copying Europe. We already took all the good stuff from Europe. We need to stop taking stuff from Europe. They ran out of good stuff. It's all over. Along comes Dr. Spock, which is effectively the continuation of this freaking psychological movement. Psychology is really bad stuff, guys. It's high sorcery and it's extremely dangerous. And those two things culminate at a certain period of time, and we have the baby boomers. That happened. How that happened, you want to invoke powers and principalities, whatever, I don't care. But that's what happened. It's just observable. It's obvious. If you observe, it becomes obvious. That's what happened. So how do we get out of this situation? What do we do? The legacy, the grounding that is supposed to be passed down to us from our parents was not done. Not universally. Some parents are great. They all happen to be religious. Might be a coincidence. I don't know. Some religions are better than others. Baptists probably have the little screws a little tight. On the other hand, they can avoid a bunch of things that way. Right? There's a lot of variation. What do we do now? We stop focusing on propositions as the highest value because they represent knowledge. Propositions do not represent knowledge. Propositions represent communication. And that communication could be knowledge. That communication could not be knowledge. That communication could be all kinds of things. Because we're living in the age of gnosis, where propositions are knowledge and knowledge is the highest value, and it's that flat and that simple, somebody took over the education system. Absolutely, they did. Excuse me. You had a system for them to take over. That was your first mistake. Right. In an attempt to shelter everybody, you are now infecting everybody. Well done. Well done. So we need to go back to a model pre-Dr. Spock, even though some of his advice is really useful and good, pre-psychology and pre-Prussian model. These things are individualistic, materialistic, and mechanistic, mostly because they're propositional. The information that you needed used to be handed down orally through families by tradition. Is that perfect? No. You know what else isn't perfect? All the other things are also not perfect. Let's not invent an ideal standard that will save the world. That's an ideology. Don't do that. We've had too much of that. Let's stop. We need to form our own children and teach them that the world is a complicated place and that other people have a different formation and different ideas, and that they will see that in school sometimes, and they should be aware. And we should teach them the purpose of school. In school, you're supposed to learn to get along with other people who aren't in your family. That's the whole purpose of school. Why we have a system that's dependent upon getting good grades when nobody ever hired on grades and still don't for the most part, except for certain industries, which maybe they should. Like maybe you should, the law school thing, maybe. I don't know. Computer science, maybe. Although obviously I never took a computer science course. That's not true. I took computers in high school, but wasn't really a computer science course at the time. If you don't have that contrast of the formation from your family with the formation from the school, it's very hard for you to discern good formation from bad formation, and you will hop from guru to guru on YouTube, becoming increasingly disaffected and unimpressed and unimpressionable over time, which leads to nihilism, because they're going to blow up. Whether it's the dear Dr. Peterson, who, still completely on board with for the most part, when he's doing certain types of things, and completely no when he's doing other things, or it's Huberman, or it's Sam Harris, or whoever else. There's dozens of them. Alex Hormozy. There's all kinds of people out there that people are following in lots of small bands, because they can't tell who's good and who's bad, because they haven't had a strong, proper formation. You need a strong, proper formation inside the home when you're very young. And then you need formation outside the home via the school system. You can homeschool and still do that. My cousin did that, right? They have homeschooling groups so you can meet people outside your family and learn to get along with them when you play kickball or volleyball or whatever it is you're playing. You can do these things. That is possible. It takes a lot of work. A lot of parents don't want to put in the work. They seem to think their lives are, well, we're going to get better, try to give it better for our kids, hoard all our wealth until we're dead, and then leave it to them in an inheritance, which has never happened before in history, I assure you. Inheriting everything at the end, that's completely bananas. Wealth transfer used to happen much more gradually. And the parents would transition to being under the custodianship of their children over time, usually in a large family unit. We have lost all of this, all of it, for this nuclear family idea, which was made up by somebody with an IQ in the single digits, no doubt. And because of that, there was a gap left for formation. Well, kids started getting formed in the schools, whether you liked it or not, because they weren't getting it at home. And then somebody figured out, hey, kids are being formed in the schools. Parents don't care. They're not adhering to a rigid structure at home. We can give them a rigid structure in school. Let's read them books with rainbows on them and tell them they can be nice to everybody. And then we'll manifest a utopia. That's what happened. You just observe this. This isn't some complicated logical thesis you need to proceduralize and figure out step by step for yourself. Just look what happened. Just look what happened. That happened. And knowing it's Frederick the Great and psychology's fault is really not helpful, because the solution is the same, no matter how it came to be. You have to form your children at home. It's a lot of work. Children suck. They're terrible. Worst things ever. Also, your only choice. Also, the best things ever. Sorry, it just is what it is. I didn't make this world. Get over it. It already happened. If you don't give them a final cause, someone else will. It's that simple. If you give them a final cause and they stray, which may happen, at least you tried. And that's your obligation. Your obligation doesn't go past that, by the way. How far you go to try to drag them back or whatever out of drug addiction or anything else, don't care. Definitely a thing. Right? But you have to understand that your obligation is to try. And you still have to have them out in the world, because eventually they have to be out in the world with almost no exceptions. They're going to have to deal with the outside world. And if they didn't get that when they were young by going to a public school or a private school, although private schools have their own set of problems, that's going to be worse. Like, the larger a general population they get exposed to, the better. Public school has the best bet for that, by far. There's no question about it, because it's more or less random and it's a large sample size from a large sample set, at least large relative to your area, which is what it needs to be. Could they get enticed by the Sweet Siren song of New York City? Yeah, lots of people do. There's whole books and musicals and songs and TV shows and all kinds of things about that. That's a constant, though. Homeschooling doesn't fix that either. Neither does private school. So public school is not to blame. The problem with private school is that you tend to get a narrow slice of different types of people. In other words, the people in a private school are much more alike than they are different. And that has its own set of dangers with it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it is. The world is a highly imperfect place. I have it on great authority, called me, by looking around. It's fine. That doesn't change what we have to do. It doesn't change what's not optional for us. It doesn't change any of that. That is my rant. Yes, Anselman, I went into educare, to rear to bring up. I said that. Did you not hear the beginning? Were you late? Did you at least bring your Sampel? Unbelievable. Some of these people. Sally Joe, no child left behind wrecked schools. It sure did. It was taken too far. Sandy, wait, what? Thought Dr. Spock was the rigid schedule guy. Nope. Father Eric. There it is. Final cause. Yes. You knew that was coming, I hope. Sally Joe, assisted marriage could be a thing. You don't actually just marry one person anyway. You join families. Right. Right. Maybe the whole family should have a say in who's joining their family. Maybe. Ixnon, you should know the family you are joining, not just the person you're marrying. Yeah. And maybe the family should have a say. Both families should have a say into whether or not they want to be connected. Yeah, slowly you gain responsibility for the family industry, not just the wealth of your parents. Yeah, well, you used to take it over. That was the issue. Sally Joe, home, tools, shop, livestock, whatever. Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff there. Father Eric, private school, Boy Scouts, church. Your ordering is completely backwards somehow, sir. But yes, Boy Scouts was huge for me. So was 4-H. I only went to each for like 1 year or something. or 4-H was just a summer thing, I think. Oh, I might have gone 2 summers. I don't remember. Boy Scouts I didn't do for very long. I really enjoyed Boy Scouts, so I learned a lot. Still have my tote and chip and my fireman's chit. Thank you very much. All the corners are on them because I don't make mistakes. I'm perfect. No, I have OCD, but that's as close to perfect as you're going to get. Believe me, OCD is a wonderful thing. Look, this is a fixable thing very easily, but it begins at the home. The wreckage is the wreckage. We could talk about what to do about the wreckage. I mean, I think that Dr. Jordan Peterson, among others, but mostly him, to be fair, gave people a formation, at least in a certain class, literal and figurative, we'll say, or literal and abstract. And that worked well. It worked really well because they were indoctrinated into the propositional tyranny. And because they were indoctrinated into that propositional tyranny, they responded well to his formation. Now, if you'd like to talk about this, or hopefully just this, please feel free to jump in with the link. I know, unfortunately, we are no longer on Randos United, and I had to ditch Facebook due to technical issues. I will be considering that. Ixnod, simple fix, not necessarily easy. Yeah, that's true. Nothing's easy. If it's easy, it's probably bad. Anselman, Boys Brigade, got to be in a bugle band. That's great. That's awesome. I don't know anything about that. Sounds vaguely UK-ish. RJ, if parents were willing to get involved, they would have. Well, their willingness is irrelevant. Like, they have responsibilities, and I know we're living in the age of irresponsibility, but Dr. Spock and the Prussians gave them a better option, which is just leave it to the schools. Oh, you don't need to do that. Children are individuals. No, they're not. They're precious members of a family unit, you moron, and it's up to you to form them into persons. It's so weird to hear like Dr. Vervaeke talk about this, and he's like, yeah, basically you get the thing home and it's a slug. And I'm like, really, John? It's a slug? Seriously? But yeah, I mean, you do form your child. That's, yes, you do. Someone has to. They're going to be formed by the environment around them, and the environment around them is determined almost entirely by their parents in every possible way. Yes, that is true. Are you sneaking away? Get back up here. Just trying to escape. It's not over yet. Calm down. To RJ's excellent earlier comment, if Polly probably is tired because she hasn't had a cracker, we need you to buy merch so that she can get crackers. That's how that works. So maybe she'll be able to sit up longer. I don't know. We'll see. So when we're dealing with this problem of education, to some extent, Peterson fixed some of it for some people, and a significant number of them, to be sure, to some extent by just being a really good teacher and a really good exemplar and stepping people through the propositions and procedures and why they don't work. He calls out the Prussian model of education while doing it, which is hysterical to me, by the way. Also, the right answer, because what else are you going to do? He has a finger on all this stuff. He talks about all of it. And then he breaks you out of it. It's not a mere bridge of concepts and language, which is why it doesn't function as such. Father Eric, excellent to see you, sir.
Hello, I'm glad you're out here educating and formating people on this Friday evening. Oh, apologies about my previously poorly ordered post. I typed it quickly, but obviously church should come first.
That's quite all right. Even priests make mistakes occasionally.
Even priests make mistakes. Some days I'm tempted to say, especially priests make mistakes.
Well,
You know,
better you than me. I'd get in trouble.
yeah. No, I think it's there's when you're studying the canon law on marriage, it talks about how one of the fundamental duties of marriage is the procreating and education of children, and your canon law professor is always going to be like, okay, now education in this context doesn't just mean sending them to school. It means the entire, raising process, getting them ready to go out into the world. So you're at least in conformity with the code of canon law.
Shocking.
Uh,
Shocking that being
yeah,
in conformity with truth, honesty, and goodness also puts you in conformity with all the churchy things at the same time. What a weird coincidence.
yeah. I'll figure it out someday how this all works.
If anyone can crack the code,
Yeah,
you can.
I appreciate your reflections on how there isn't just one way to go about the education of your children. All of them are going to have their strengths and their weaknesses. Um, so yeah, is a lot of my seminary classmates were homeschooled,
Mm,
and I think it's useful to distinguish between being homeschooled, which is a historical fact, and being a homeschooler, which is a personality type.
mm. Oh, that's good.
Unfortunately inflicted upon you by your parents, and usually as a result of having a bit too short of a leash, But honestly, like I've seen it go both ways, so it's kind of like you know, the parents had a lot to do with Alan, the normal homeschooler, and Frankie, who's just kind of messed up.
Yeah.
I saw it both in seminary, and yeah, so.
Yeah. So my father's the eldest in the family of crazy French Canadians. So he was supposed to be a priest. Like that was what he was supposed to do. And they sent him to a nice Catholic school down the street, and a couple of them actually, I think, in Lowell, and that wasn't going to work out. So it didn't work out. Instead, at a relatively young age, he got married, and the rest is history.
Rest is history. It's really interesting. Like the priesthood skipped a generation in my dad's side of the family too. My mom's side of the family isn't Catholic, but I had two great uncles who were priests, both of them in Minnesota, and then nobody on my dad's generation, despite the
Hmm.
fact that there was a lot of them. I guess if you go like, I have a second cousin who's a priest, but we'd be the same generation, I think.
Mm.
So, so yeah, it just kind of like skipped the whole generation. I wonder if there was something. I wonder if something happened then.
It's very mysterious, very mysterious. I was watching Burn Power has another channel called the Anadrome and Anadromy, something like that. And I could only watch about a third of it because sorry, Ixnat, I couldn't. But it's all music, weird music that got popular in the 60s, right at a certain like 3-year range. And it was just like, oh man, this is all lining up again. I don't like this. Let me out. Yeah. When I was doing the research for this morning too, I was like, oh, these time frames are very mysterious. Why is everything like this? This is getting weird. It's all the same time frame, all of it. And yeah, I mean, you fit it in. One of the I should do another timeline. We have a timeline on the petersonsphere.com website, but for Peterson stuff, I should do a historical timeline with my threaded history trick, and show this whole Protestant catastrophe and how it unfolds at certain points and how those points kind of burst open these other things that were always there, and then the next thing all the dominoes have fallen and everyone's like, what happened? It's like, well, you were kind of warned, but you kind of didn't listen. So
Yeah, yes. There's just something about 1968, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just something about 1968. It's yeah.
That spirit of individualism, which comes straight from Nietzsche. I mean, I will fight you on that. Comes straight from Nietzsche. Just seems yeah, just seems to have impacted the troops somehow.
The
Um
troops specifically like in
the,
Vietnam
the
or
US troops in Germany because we're
the
talking
US
about
troops
their
in
children.
Germany. Okay.
We're talking about their children. So that spirit just so and one of the interesting things is that spirit starts earlier, obviously, with the beginning of the Great War and not the second big act of the Great War. Um, one one of the more interesting things is you have something like Sergeant York. Have you ever seen the movie Sergeant York? Fascinating film, black and white. It's very old. It's really good. And that's something like my uncle introduced me to that because he grew up on that. But it's one guy single-handedly subduing like 250 Germans and without firing a shot because he was trying to be a conscientious objector, and he's a real guy in what some people call World War One, which is more myth or more fantasy. Uh, but yeah, I mean, he has this whole mythos behind him as the lone hero sort of thing, the thing that Campbell later talks about. Sort of makes me wonder where Campbell got it from. Psychology, maybe? Right. And so that's it's part of the problem is that I think that something happened. Some kind of infection occurs when you go anywhere near Europe. And then they bring it back en masse. And yeah, spiritual warfare, powers and principalities, all of that. I want to, yes, Ixnat, I saw it. Well, you put it on the beginning, and then I did go far enough to see that. I know classical gas. Like I knew the song. I had seen that piece before where they flash all the paintings, but I didn't watch most of the paintings because I I don't like the subliminal programming thing because it's bad. But yeah, they flash 3,000 paintings in 3 minutes and 20 seconds or something. Like 2 frames or 3 frames per painting, maybe at most. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I
And
mean,
then they
that
play
just
that
seems like
silly
you're
song.
just getting overwhelmed right there. You're not actually going to be able to process any of that.
Yeah, well, and I think a good case can be made for the flooding of the world because of the Great War. Like the Great War floods the world. That's why it's the Great War. Like because it consumes the entire globe in some sense. And ever since then things have gone downhill. I don't know. Could be a coincidence. Everything's a coincidence now. Because anecdotal evidence. I'm like, well, I don't know what kind of other evidence there is, but when you figure out, let me know. I'll wait here.
You probably will find the real evidence on like the Sam Harris podcast or something.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
he says it, it's fine. Or somebody from a university, they could say it, and then it'll be considered real evidence. But only if it's like the right university and the right departments, and they're saying the right things
Mm,
that confirm what you're already thinking. Uh,
right.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's the proper. Yeah,
Ixnon, lots of assumptions about formation and doing that to the audience. Well, Ixnon, yeah, I think I'll spill the beans on this new thesis I've been working on. I get news for you. So if you bother, it's 3 hours. But if you listen to the Alex Hormozy interview on uh, Diary of a CEO, you'll hear. First of all, he was using meaning crisis a long time ago, but he's using it in the specific business context. The context he's using is hysterical because it's completely correct and it scales up and down. Just show yes, meaning crisis happens that
like
way.
a business could have a meaning crisis, absolutely. When like all of a sudden you're not doing the thing that your business is supposed to be doing.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur hits the meaning crisis as a result of being stuck in a loop. But you'll hear them use all the language that we normally use. And then at the end, you hear the nihilism and the weirdness. So what I think is actually happening, like we'll say globally, because I think it is globally, is that because we have collapsed, the last vestiges of the class or caste system have been collapsed, they are reforming around money, which is probably a bad way for them to form, by the way, but whatever. They are reforming. And so in the past, the only people that had TVs would have been more familiar with the arts than your average bear. And so if you're watching the Smothers Brothers and you're seeing things that connect to high art, what you're seeing is a rebellion within the upper class. If you listen to Hermosi on Diary of a CEO, you'll hear the rebellion of the children of the upper class against their parents. It's standard rebellion. When he talks about homelessness, for example, because he kind of does, his degree of homelessness is so unrecognizable to me. I was like, it sounds like luxury and comfort. So you have couches that you can sleep on. Boy, that would have been a big luxury for me, buddy. A big luxury. A lot of these people know they can go back home. I didn't have any of that. Right.
Mhm.
And so when you're looking at the signals from another class or caste or another section of the hierarchy, you're going to get confused because they're not going to be able to convey the correct meaning to you. And whatever meaning they do convey will be corrupt already because you don't have the formation from the
So
hierarchy
you
from
can
your class.
so you can have, and I'm just going to try and use a related concept. You can have jargon in signals in addition to having technical jargon within a specific field of study or work. I mean, I know jargon's not the right word, but
Signals.
that's sort of what it like. If I'm going to say that you're going to be, appointed defensor vigili on causa for this particular 1095-3 case, it's like that means nothing for you, right? But
That's right. That's right. Because
so that's not a useful bit of information for you, and I just confused you
yeah,
by dazzling you with fancy sounding Latin words.
how do our brains
Subum
work?
bonum. Yeah.
Oh, look, there's a model for that. The signals come in from into the perspectival understanding, and they get formed by the four P's. It's just our four P's are better, by the way. Are we
Oh,
doing this now? There we go. We
yeah,
can do
I
that.
think we have to.
That's hysterical. No, I can't. See, I'm dyslexic. So
Yeah.
anything that flips things, yeah. So with this engine, you can kind of explain it all. So it kind of matters what framing you go into this with. And that's what allows you to inform the signals so that you get something useful out of it. Now, if you go listen to Alex Hormozy talk about entrepreneurship, he's going to use a lot of terms in a lot of ways like meaning crisis, even though it's completely correct, that don't necessarily make any sense to you. Although you'll be able to relate to meaning crisis because it is part of the fractal, self-similar fractal aspect of reality, right? And so it's like, oh, so what I've been noticing is that everyone's converging on the language, everyone, which I've already predicted 5 years ago. Like I knew this is going to happen because this has happened. This is what happens, right? The language was splintering apart and now it's coming back together. I think the hierarchy was splintered apart. It was flattened and now it's reforming around money. That partially explains why Donald Trump got into politics, right? Because in the past, that was separate, right? The merchant class was always separate from the noble class. There was some crossover sometimes, but generally the nobles look down on the merchants and they don't look down on the poor. They help the poor, but they look down on the merchants. Right. Right. And well, why is that? I mean, we could give like so-called psychological explanations or whatever, but I think they're unhelpful and stupid, so I'm not going to do it. Um, but that was the way of things. And yeah, there came a time in the medieval period, we'll say, when people bought their way into nobility. That happened all the time. But they were still looked down upon by the nobility, and if you got in, it was a tricky thing. But it happens today. Like, none of this has changed. It's just that it's flatter now, so it's all harder to see. All of it.
It
It's not like
also,
you gain visibility; you lose visibility.
in this country, we made a conscious decision, at least the founding fathers did, that we were not going to have titles. The president of the United States he holds the title of president as long as he's in office,
Mhm.
but he's not going to be like, the Baron of Seventh Street or something like that.
Right.
So now there's an advantage to that in that you can change your nobility. There could be a little bit more social mobility, right? So,
Yep.
that's the classic American story, the rags to riches or whatever. And somebody who's genuinely capable um, has a chance of, not having to stay exactly where they're at. So it does get things a little bit rigid, but it also makes it more like invisible.
Yep. Well, I think a couple things are going on there. First of all, I think that if you use the term rise to the occasion in whatever language, that would only be meaningful for the noble class. In the United States, you've got this big empty land, and you've just thrown off the yoke of governance, of a particular government. And now you need people who, I don't know, could be anybody, to rise to the occasion. Now, you got to understand too, in the early days, the only people that came here were very dedicated people with money and their indentured servants who were very dedicated because you had to be to put up with those jerks, among other things. Also, they were
Just the 7 years.
indentured
Just
servants.
put the 7 years in. Got a good
Right.
deal at the end of the seven
I
years.
think it was 5, but they had varying contracts, but I think 5 was the most common, at least in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, what was it was 5 years of servitude and you got like 10 acres of land. It's like really not a bad deal. Like, really, 10 acres of land of my own. That's not bad, right? But you have this big empty country and you need people to rise to the occasion. You don't know who, and you are actually forming a government. Now, it's not illegal to have a title in the United States. It never was. What they Now there's a lot of argumentation over this. So if you ask me, I'll just tell it to you straight. That amendment was definitely ratified. And the amendment was, if you hold any kind of title at all, you are barred from political office. In other words, you can hold land and be a nobleman in the classic English style if you want, but you then cannot serve in the government in any form, which I think is a very interesting system. Now they did away with that, or at least that was at least true for the federal government. I don't remember the amendment that well. I'd have to go read it again. But I did read it once because I like to research and I'm good
But
at it.
regardless of that, like we don't have titles the way that titles existed in
We
Europe.
Yeah, we don't have land titles for that reason, because control of the land fell to the government and not to the noble class because we didn't have a noble class and they didn't
Mhm,
want a noble class because they
mhm.
were rebelling against their parents in the same way Alex Hormozy was. Weird, huh? Weird pattern, right? I mean, that's effectively the whole reason the US exists is because people were rebelling against their parents. Sorry. I hate to deglamorize it, but also it really is that simple. So, and that wasn't the only set, but that was the big, like, that's how it all came to be, right? They kicked them out of England to the Netherlands, and even the Dutch couldn't put up with them. And the Dutch could put up with just about anybody.
Very
Now,
tolerant people then.
almost nobody can put up with the Dutch, but the Dutch can put up with almost anybody. So that they went back to England because they're cousins or something and said, "Bro, we got to do something about this." And that's how the colonies, in North America came to be, and maybe all of them, but you know, certainly the ones that matter. And and that was the problem, is that they had to go. They had to go. RJ, Daddy the George was crazy. That had nothing to do with it. That was convenient. It was a convenient fact of a temporary condition that happened. Whether or not and to what extent the founding fathers understood that the beheading of the English king had destroyed the monarchy and that parliament was not a good form of government because it had been taken over by the world's largest corporation to date, I don't know. I suspect that they knew that the problem was parliament had been taken over by the East India Company. But
Which would
that
be
would be
maybe
tough to tease out.
the impetus to have, you know, the limitations, the clearly spelled out limitations in your plan of government. That because I guess I don't really know how the English government works, but like, is there any power higher than Parliament in England?
Well, there
Like, I
was.
guess
It was the
the king?
king.
Yeah, the
It was
king, right? But like today, you know,
no, today there isn't, but there
right?
like this is the breaking. The breaking happens like 100 years or something after the Reformation. Right. So Henry VIII destroys the world. Kills the monasteries, right?
You will never say enough bad things about him, but go on.
It's too bad, actually. It's a fascinating character. I gotta find there's a PBS special on him from years ago that's absolutely excellent. Basically he went insane. But he was like, the Chad meme? He was the Chad meme only times a billion. Like he was the biggest because he just happened to be big and tall and strong and brave and competent and smart and like he was everything. Right? He was this almost deity like figure all by himself. And so when he went insane and they think they know why and how that happened, um he just wrecked everything. Right. So Parliament was only a taxation device that was to be used in times of war. It was to raise money. So he'd call Parliament, they'd dissolve in 2 or 3 months after they figured out how to fund the war or whether or not to fund the war, and then they go away. And then they take over the government. The interesting thing about the United States is colonies were formed by the king.
Right,
They were
right.
chartered by the king.
Mhm.
They did not want to lose the king. They understood that you need a king. But they also understood that we couldn't keep the king because the king was crazy, right? Which again was convenient propaganda. They knew that by the time they were even reporting that, I think the king was already over his malady. There's I forget what it's called, but there's some temporary insanity thing that used to happen on a fairly regular basis to people back then.
Probably, not purifying the drinking water properly.
It's something stupid. Yeah, it's not Giardia, but it's something similar to that where you get that, you're insane for a couple of years, and then it passes, right? And whatever.
That
That
happened to Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible.
if you
It's
say
in the
so.
book of Daniel. It's in the book of Daniel.
What do you mean the book of Daniel? I thought the Bible was a book. What are these books with books things? What's going I can't be
Oh,
bothered.
you're acting like you haven't even read the Lord of the Rings. Come on.
I read the Lord of the Rings. It was great. It's 3
Yeah,
books.
it's 6 books.
What? It's 3 books. What are you talking about? I have one book unabridged. How's that? It's one book.
Well, that's what Joel Tolkien wanted originally.
Yeah, they made him divide it up.
Yeah. Idiots. They should have just let him do whatever he wanted. Anyway,
Yeah, that's part of the problem. RJ says the Bible is a library of books, Mark. No, I don't know anything about this crazy book. I can't remember the name of it. Castle Adams. Nebuchadnezzar was goaded. Okay. I'm glad you find it
but
funny.
part of his madness was that he went outside and started eating grass.
Ah, okay.
See, if you'd read the
A
book,
little
Mark, you would
biblical
get these
humor there.
jokes.
I
You
can't
would get these
understand that book.
jokes.
I can't understand that. But it's hopeless. Hopeless. No one can understand that book. It's too hard. It's a distributed cognition of the smartest people from the past 2000 plus years. What hope do I have? I'll just let you tell me the important parts when they're important
Okay.
to me. How's that?
Okay. That's
Deal?
how it works for most people, frankly.
Well, that's how it should work for all people. People should stop trying to read that book anyway and just let the priests do it for them. I'm just saying.
Sure. I'll just keep on doing it.
RJ, Mark's a Catholic who hasn't read the book already. Catholics don't care about reading the book. I don't know why you guys confuse Catholics with Protestants. They really don't. I promise you, they don't. It's a very Protestant thing.
The thing is that anytime there is a Catholic Bible study, they're like, we're using Father Mike Schmidt's Bible study, so it's still kind of the same thing, right? It's like you're
Most
getting homilies anyway. It's just there's more talking back and forth between the ladies over coffee.
most of the Catholics I know don't do Bible studies. So
Yeah, but they
yeah.
really worked for some people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Castle, 5-year-long Saturday book club. When? No, never.
That would be a 40-year commitment right there, especially at the pace you guys took with the language of creation.
Oh
What was
yeah.
that?
Well,
45 episodes?
that was 40. It was exactly
40.
40.
Exactly
Yes.
40. Just
Isn't that weird? And we did not plan that, and we discovered it on the last episode. Wait a minute, there's 40 episodes. We're gonna finish up today. How weird.
what's so significant about the number 40 anyway?
I don't know. I've heard something about it in places, and it's something about deserts. I don't know, wandering. I I hear these rumors. I don't know where they come from. Could be a psyop from the CIA, for all I know.
Gosh, that.
Could be ancient aliens whispering into our ears. Just as plausible. Just as plausible. But yeah, there's something interesting about education and the focus on books, the focus on propositions, the focus on all these things that comes out of the 60s. RJ, no genatria, Father Eric, please. What the hell is that? Sounds like a disease.
Sounds like Greek nonsense to me. I think I'll pass.
Oh, the Greeks, the troublesome Greeks. We took all their good stuff. Like, leave us alone. Stop giving us their bad stuff. We left it behind. Sally Joe seems legit, Castle. There we go. Make Mark read the book club. No, that's not how that works.
Hey, on Saturday we've got the next episode of the Flannery O'Connor Short Story Club.
Is that Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday, yes.
Okay. Yeah,
As
I thought it
said,
was
on
Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yes, I can't wait to read more Flannery O'Connor. Oh, I didn't tell you. So I went to a July 5th fireworks event at my friend Kira's house down the street. And her new friend showed up who just moved from rural Georgia. And she's a librarian. And one of the questions she asked me was, hey, have you read Flannery O'Connor? And I'm like, this is the first time anyone's ever asked a question like that to me. And I said, it's really funny. You should mention that. So
We
I don't know
started with
what's
The Good
going
Man
on.
is Hard to Find.
Right. I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, I said, you must really be able to resonate with that book since she's from your area. And then she started looking into it. I'm like, yeah, she was Catholic too. She's like, she was? Freaking Protestants, man. They're all nuts. They don't know anything. Poor Protestants. There's no hope for them.
Yeah, it looks like here we go.
Yeah.
Numbers, letters, pattern. I remember being like 12 years old and watching the History Channel as I often did because back then it wasn't a complete disaster.
It was great
And
back then, yeah.
they had like a whole hour-long thing on the Bible code. And I just
Mm.
remember being a 12-year-old kid and thinking, "Oh, this doesn't work. This is stupid. Why would you do it like that? Like you're just making stuff up. Like, how do you even pick which? Because they were doing it in English, right? They were doing it with the King James Bible.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Like, it was
but
written
then,
Hebrew and Greek. I think I knew that at the age of 12, for Pete's
well,
sake.
yeah, a good Catholic education would prevent you from falling down that rabbit hole, right? So it's just funny too because the King James version is the newspaper version of the Bible. It was written for the barely literate. I hate to break it to people, but also it wasn't what the priests were reading. Sorry, not sorry. It was a general audience book, so it was YA.
The young adult's
The
Bible.
young adult Bible.
Our young adult's Bible use the New American Bible or the Revised Standard Version. Now, I was there for the World War II stuff, right? Like, you tell me all about the Battle of the Bulge, you tell me all about the military equipment. Like, that was the stuff that I was really into.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah,
It's just
right.
that's more myth of World War II stuff, unfortunately.
Look, if you got it along with the church, then like it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Well, that's what I mean. Like, yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, Peugeot talks about it perfectly correctly, right? He says, I mean, you need a flat story somewhere. So it's not like the myth of World War II is bad in that way, but like if it's breaking down, we got to replace it with something, and he doesn't know what that is. And I'm like, that's where we part ways. I'm like, bro, maybe you shouldn't point it out then. Like, don't go to your boss with a problem which you don't have a solution for. Like, don't do that. It's a dangerous thing.
Hmm, hmm.
So, yeah. Oh, I like what Ixon says here. It turns out you can always find patterns after the fact. Yeah, a lot of people get confused with hindsight bias, like really confused. I was talking to a young man yesterday or the day before about this, and I was like, "Well, yeah, all these things make sense in hindsight, but try doing them going forward without the information that you have now, and see what happens." All right, because you're going to get a very different view of the world.
Right,
Very
right. And part of that is like you've done a lot of filtering now because you've seen how things turned out. And now you know like what's the really important things that drove everywhere and all of that stuff that you wasted your time on that didn't help at all,
right.
which is useful for acquiring wisdom to reflect on these things. But it's like, yeah, yeah, it's still hard to know what's gonna happen. So
RJ, it turns out not everything that happens was inevitable. Yeah, I mean, we see it that way because we're stuck in time and we have no choice. But uh, and there are certain things you can point to, right? So one of the myth of World War II arguments that goes around all the time is, oh well, it turns out that if it hadn't been Hitler, it would have been somebody else, and it's like that's a very compelling statement just because of the situation. But actually, it could have gone one of two ways. So,
could have been the
but
communists. Communists could have taken over.
no, 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 Germany would have ceased to exist. There would be no German people. There would be no German state. They all would have starved to death and died. They would have been wiped out. Yeah.
Okay, that would also be bad.
No, but those were the only two options. Like they were
Yeah.
either going to be wiped out or you were going to get a tyrant. Those are the only two options. Right?
Yeah, no,
A tyrant who was going to wage war because you had to restore the fertile farmlands that France took, or the country there wasn't the people would have all died, like actually died, like actual starvation died. So yeah, those are the two probable or possible outcomes. I don't think there's a scenario where like even Russia moves in, right? Because they had no interest in the beginning. Right. It's only once war gets put on the table, because people don't understand momentum and mimicry. They really don't understand, like, oh no, once killing starts, it's very hard to stop.
yeah.
And so you're better off with lots of small injustices than you are with a broken justice system. But I tweeted this out sometime over the past week and a half, right? It just turns out that when you corrupt justice, you get war. That's how you get war. Maybe it's not the only way to get war, but Castle, so nice to see you, sir. How are you doing? You're muted. Unmute so we can hear you.
There we go.
Excellent.
Good week. It's been a pretty solid week. It's still recovering after Father Eric made me read that short story. Entirely your fault. Just want to let you. Also,
what am I
You
in
seem to be
store for
recovering
on
well.
Sunday?
You're smiling and everything.
Yeah, well, it's The thing is, I didn't read it this week. I read it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? And I'm still
Oh, you read
recovering.
Parker's Back already.
Yeah, I read it when
So
you
so
announced
it was abdominal pain from the amount of laughter you were going through.
Okay, so it was absolutely hilarious and then utterly heartbreaking, right? And so that's kind of that's my my description of it. I preferred it to the previous one, for sure. And yeah, the sheer amount of hilarious things in there, I practically highlighted almost the entire thing because it was just I I thought Moby Dick was funny, but no, this was really good. And you know, like Mark made a comment in the previous book club that it was like Flannery O'Connor was just looking out the window and then writing down the stuff that she saw. You know, and it's just like, yeah,
Yeah,
that story is actually too real. It is way too much reality in such a short span of time. It's very very unnerving, but very
Okay, well, let's save it. Let's save it
yeah
for Sunday, and let's save it for my YouTube channel, 4
yeah
p.m. Eastern.
yeah. I'm just giving a teaser for the folks at home.
yeah.
No
Post a link, Father. Post a link so that you
Oh,
get some more. You'll
I
find
haven't
one.
made
Take your time. Take your time. So
I
yeah, Castle smiling is sort of like means he's awake, I think, because he just smiles all the time. He's just one of these happy people.
Am
So
I?
it's
Wow, that's
really
good.
not a good indicator of much of anything,
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
except joy to the world, effectively, which is excellent. Yeah, he's just a joy projection machine. If you want to put it in material flat terms.
Go for it.
Hey, man, you could be a lot worse.
Now that book club is going to be fun. Although now I'm dreading what I've gotten myself into. What am I going to read on Sunday before we do the book club? I don't know. I'm a little like, uh-oh. We're not going to go through this again. But the fact that it came up, that some random person I met that day brought up Flannery O'Connor, I was like, how did this happen?
Oh man. Well,
Oh my
I
goodness.
got to tell you, for today, it was quite an experience listening to the first hour of your stream at between 3 and 4 times speed. YouTube finally gave me the ability again. They capped me at 2, and or it was maybe 2.5 that they had capped me at for a while.
How can you
And
listen to me at 2x speed? I'm not one of those slow talkers.
I listened to you at 4x for about 10 minutes, I want to
How
say.
can you understand anything I say at 4x?
Well, you have to pay attention to, you have to also read your lips at the same time. But if you're listening and you pay attention to the lip movements, I don't have a problem. It's almost like that thing. Have you ever seen that thing where they do, and I wish I had more access to this. There was some program where they would take text and then they would just show one word at a time, and you would look at the center of the word.
Yeah.
Then it would gradually increase the speed, so it reached the point that in 30 seconds you had just read like 4 pages or something like that. But because your eyes weren't moving, so you weren't expending additional like motor energy or whatever. And so it's kind of like that. Like I don't know. I have my little subtitle here is informally informed. I have lots of unusual skills from not having any proper
Proper formation.
proper formation.
Yeah. RJ, Mark talks slow. I listen at 2x all the time. Okay. Mark only talks fast when he's arguing. I never argue. What are you talking about? Ixnon chip mark for max efficiency.
Exactly.
Chip mark. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that anybody can, because it's pretty dense. I'm a pretty concise speaker. And that, like, I've worked on that over the years. I'm much less concise than I was. I'm just going to tell you, right? No one's going to believe me, but also I guarantee you that is true.
You're doing a good job with nice pauses during your monologues.
Thank you. I try.
I notice it, especially in an echoey church, when the preacher doesn't pause. Right, and especially the place that I'm living at now, and where I do the masses at, super echoey, right? So like I just have to do these big dramatic pauses just to let the air clear, and then everybody tells me I do such a wonderful job. So
nice.
That's the magic. I love it. I love it. See, Sally to the rescue. I have issues with regular speed, Mark. Yeah, that's true. RJ, good point. Pauses are important, also important in education. Yeah, well, you need time to absorb stuff. I mean, that was the beauty of the Language Creation Book Club, for example, that is on navigating patterns. 40 long, arduous episodes. Also, excellent stuff. If you don't take pauses and use things like moving your attention through intention and then doing reflection at the end, you get a lot less out of it.
Mm.
Right. And by it, I mean actually anything you do. It does work, sleep, anything at all. So,
Just recently I saw some of these fitness guys talking about, like, they were kind of catching on to this as well, and they were saying, you develop more strength by actually having more time in between sets. So these guys are going 10, 15 minutes between sets.
Oh, it takes
and
forever.
yeah, well, they basically say, yeah, you're just exercising all day very intermittently. And they say, well, yeah, it's which makes sense. You'd think of guys who they had a profession, like every now and then they had to haul a big old sack of grain or something like that. And it's like, well, those guys always had giant forearms and all this stuff. And it's like, well, because they were just intermittently working and they had to get the job done, And so they're like, well, in our luxury environment that's hyper specialized, like we don't really have much of a need to do that. So now you have to kind of simulate it.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting watching like the gym bros rediscover all the principles of the universe that they could have been formed with if their parents hadn't been slugs.
Yeah.
But also their parents are slugs. RJ, people talk slow to be polite or something. No. Also to signal calm. No, you're just a psychotic, overly anxious person. People talk slow to be heard better in general. And also because if you go too fast, you will draw associations that are not appropriate. And when people slow you down by speaking more slowly, it doesn't work for crazy anxious people, but it works for most people, then you have time to absorb what they're saying and not jump ahead and try to anticipate where they're going with things. There's other ways to do that, but Ixnon, Jim bros greater than philosophers. Well, there's certainly, it's funny how, like I said, everything strays into philosophy and no one can tell the difference between things. So one of the comments on the Mark of Wisdom Discord about my posting Alex Hormozy was, he's a charlatan and, you'd make more money in the S&P. He's an entrepreneur. There's no way investing in the S&P makes more money than an entrepreneur under any circumstances. And why would you equate those two things? But people don't know that you can't equate those two things. They think they're the same because they're both about making money. But that's not true. And the way Alex and the guy who does, I forget the guy's name, who does Diary of a CEO, talk about this, they're compelled to be entrepreneurs. They're not doing it for the money. They're just using the money to measure their compulsion and their success in their compulsion.
But these are the sort of people that when they're just starting off, they'll just go into $60,000 or $70,000 of credit card debt. And like, they're fine doing that.
Hormozy leaves his house, finds this guy and shows up and says, all right, I'm here for you to mentor me. And the guy's like, who are you? You need to come back tomorrow. He's like, where are you staying? And Hormozy's like, oh, I don't know. All my stuff's in my car. I figured I'd figure it out when I got here. It's like, you did what? What kind of drugs are you smoking, bro? And then the guy very generously gave him a place to live. But he was compelled. He was compelled to not want to be a management consulting person, which is what his father wanted, who went to all these, and he went to Vanderbilt. I'm like, oh, bro, you and I have nothing in common at all. It's fine. I'm not taking your advice on anything because you just see the world vastly differently. And then when he described being homeless and once you figure out you have a couch to sleep, I'm like, what? Talk about silver spoon. You might as well have $1 billion to me. I didn't have any of that. What are you kidding me? No, I was actually homeless, you moron. Don't talk to me about homelessness. Go away. Hierarchy. It matters. And not everybody was supposed to be educated in the same way, right? Like we used to, even when I was growing up, we had Lowell Trade School, and we all joked the troublemakers go there. Yeah, why do the
It was probably
troublemakers
good
go
for
to
them.
Right, because it's good for them, right? Not because they're disrupting the highfalutin people who are book learning. It's actually because it's better for them. It calms them down, right? The more you work with your hands, the better off you are if you're anxious, because working with your hands brings down your anxiety. And if you stay in bookland all day, your fantasy mind, your imaginal space, if you want to put it in crazy Vervaeke terms, lets you run wild, and you never settle down, and you just increase your anxiety because you're in a boundless world.
Yeah, and thinking about the, like the unruly kids and everything, it just reminds me of this little story. There's this guy, he's passed away now, but his name was Dr. Plinio, and the guy, super, super, super successful guy. But when he was a little kid, there was a time when he got his report card, and he had to have been like 8 years old or something like that. And so he gets his report card, and he sees that, and his mom was super like kind of iron fisted about, you're gonna have good manners. She was a very kind mom, but she didn't tolerate anything. And then he gets his report card, and it said behavior was, was like out of 5, and he got like a 2 or something like that. But he knew he was really trying. He was like, this is not correct. And then he also did really well in some other thing that he knew for a fact he didn't do well in. And so he was like, oh, this is flipped. And he thought to himself, oh, I'm just going to correct this, right? Like, I'll just, the teacher made a mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and his child handwriting, like it was absolutely horrific. And he noticed that it was bad. And then it started to rain, and he tried using the rainwater and the paper got all messed up, his 8-year-old brain. And then he kind of goes back to, also, like, they're Brazilian, right? So, like, strong, Brazilian mom, Donna Lucilia was her name. And and so she goes and she gets the thing, and she immediately sees the discrepancy. And she's like, my son is a forger, and she goes and she says, we're going to go and we're going to approach she hears the story, and she says, if the teacher actually genuinely put you as bad behaviors, you're going to boarding school, kid. Like, this is not going to, And because she said, she was like, if God gave me a dummy for a son, what can I do? But I will never tolerate that he's a bad kid, right? So he can be dumb all he wants. and so it wound up being, there's a bunch of stuff that wound up being, him going into his vocation and stuff after that. And it was a necessary experience, but it just kind of reminded me this thing of, she really understood that balance of, he's going to the school and he is going to be demonstrating the formation that I've given him. And if he doesn't take anything from there, that was just a limit of his capacity, right? And it's just like, I'm not gonna put any undue pressure on him for that. But the formation is the key thing, and that's going to reflect based on the feedback that I'm getting back from the authorities there.
No, that's good. Ixon, forcing everyone into the same formation is the development of a slave class. Technically true. Everybody talks about slavery, but nobody takes it seriously enough to have a good discussion about it. They think it's just chattel slavery.
Right. Now, do you remember Job? He hangs out at the Bridges of Meaning Discord server.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's Dutch, and
which one? Now that they have 16 million of them. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
16 million Jobs or 16 million Dutch people?
16 million Bridges of Meaning Discord servers.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking about the original one. Anyway, I posted a video of my choir in high school singing a song because I'd found it and I wanted to share it because we had actually done most high school choirs couldn't have done what we did. And he was like, wow, you guys do that in high school choirs in America? Like, he got sorted into, and this is something that happens in the Netherlands. Like, he had got sorted into the technical engineering school somewhere in high school or before high school age, and they have those tracks kind of
Yeah.
built into their educational system.
Right.
And on the one hand, probably like getting the engineers to just like get on with the engineering type things and get your tradesmen to get on with the tradesman type things is probably good for people once they reach that certain baseline level of, you know, basic reading comprehension, arithmetic, a little bit of history, something like that. But it's odd that they wouldn't give them an opportunity to sing as well, because
Yeah, they broke the world. I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, we need to stop copying Europe because Europe's been broken for a
yeah,
while.
right. I was like, I thought you guys were supposed to be the cultured people, and as it turns out,
They're
we're
not.
the more cultured ones because like every high school has some kind of a choir or band program, as far as I know.
Watch this. There's a wonderful video on what channel? Oh yeah, Navigating Patterns, called The Frontier of Ideas. It's all outlined there. Yeah, I mean, because they were following us, and like the Prussian model, like Prussia's over there, like the Prussian model had a bigger influence over there than it did over here, and
Well,
those two things combined, right?
I don't mind the specialization part of that, but like the taking out the music,
But
you don't
that's
even have to have everybody do it. You just need to have it as an option.
but that's what they did. Like they took
Yeah.
like what they took out of the education system is music, gym, recess, and art. And they split the education system into trade school, not trade school. And then they did away with trade school. Okay. So what is that? Oh, they separated out all the participatory learning methods, which is the only way to learn anything, by the way, period. End of statement. And now no one understands symbolism. Basically, because that's how that works. I mean, that's why the model is so powerful, because the model is not even remotely wrong. It's completely correct. And that's the it maps so well. It's kind of scary, right? All these years, it's been like 5 years. It's held up remarkably well. Yeah, we're coming up on 5 years. I think it was August. If I remember, it was the end of August. I'd have to look to see when it was, but I think it was the end of August of 2020 that we came up with the model.
Ooh, that's a good one. I have to see Plato fight Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. I am a huge Bruce Lee fan, and I have a bunch of Bruce Lee movies, and nobody beat Bruce Lee. Nobody. Sorry. I just watched Enter the Dragon like last week. It was awesome. I love that movie. So fast. That's where he hit Jackie Chan by accident, and Jackie Chan played it up because he just wanted more attention from Bruce, because Bruce is like this awesome guy. Yeah, a lot of people don't know Jackie Chan was in Enter the Dragon. At least once, I think twice. But yeah, he got whacked accidentally.
That's a good.
Yeah, if you're going to be a stunt man or a fight man, that's just kind of part of the trade. You're going to have
Yep.
you're going to have fists coming at you, and people might not always stop in time.
That's
And if
they
you're going
get
to hit
pretty
anybody,
beat
it
up.
may as well be Jackie Chan, because like he's apparently indestructible or made out of rubber or something. Because
Yes.
the stuff that he's, I can't. I'm amazed he can still walk. I'm amazed he can still walk.
His drunken boxing is fantastic. If you've ever watched him do the drunken boxing, I'm just, whenever I see those, I'm like, I don't know how he does it. He's definitely made of rubber material. There's no question about it. He doesn't have bones.
I was thinking that one, there was that one scene, I think it was Rush Hour 2, where he like jumps and slides himself through like the opening of like a teller's booth, where they've just got like the little slot. And so they have like kind of the bulletproof glass, and then there's just like a little rectangular slot, that's there, or it might have been bars or something, but he just like jumps up and just slides through this counter. There's actually an outtake where he accidentally slammed himself into it. But but it's like, oh my goodness, this guy is like actually an octopus. Like he just puts his feet, like his shoes fit in there, and he just squishes himself through. It's very weird.
I think he and Sammo Hung and all these other guys came out of like some kind of theater group, martial arts theater group. It was super influential for all of this stuff.
Yeah. It's amazing how many of these things just like start off with a dozen guys doing something and then it blows up all over the world. Like,
right.
There was a number of semi-famous prog rock bands from the 1970s that all came from the Wildflowers in Canterbury of all places.
Yeah.
And like the band broke up, and each guy went off and started his own band. So you get like Camel and Caravan, and Soft Machine, and Egg. So not like the biggest prog rock bands, but
well,
they have published albums, and I don't. So
super influential. Yeah, people don't understand. It was I forget which of Bourdain's shows it was, but he starts talking about the New York Dolls. And it was like, who the hell are I've never heard of the New York Dolls. Who the hell is that? And he says in the episode, like, nobody knew who the New York Dolls were. Almost nobody came to their concerts, but everybody at their concerts became a rock star, like all of them. David Bowie, and he lists a bunch of them. And I'm like, what? And they were, so the only people there were people that formed bands or became famous in bands or whatever later. And I was just like, wow, but that's this, people build up momentum, people mimic that momentum. All of that comes from an upper class, however you define it. And I think that's returning because it has to, right? You got to have something to mimic. The idea that we're sort of individuals doing no way. Like we're just mimicking things. And once you see something cool like Bruce Lee, right? Jackie Chan talks about it all the time. Like, yeah, he was all the rage. I wanted to do that, right? And these guys eventually got to do it, decades later. And that's part of the problem is that people don't understand that mechanism and no one talks about it. And Gerard's the closest, even though he sucks. There's a discussion I could have with Jonathan Peugeot. It'd be good to do a Gerard discussion with somebody who's more into him than I am, we'll say. I got to go through those David Cayley interviews again, though, and confirm my thesis because AI is incapable of answering simple questions without giving me the runaround.
Sure, it's personal. The demons in the AI don't want you to have the knowledge that you need.
It's interesting, though, that they can find contradictions pretty well. But there's certain other things they can't find. And now I have to figure out, is that because it's not in the text? Like, is it a tonal signal I'm picking up on? Or is it a structural thing that they can't see? Because that's also possible, right? I don't know. So I have to go back through those interviews and actually like do some old style search strings and stuff like that to confirm if what I heard was actually what I heard, right? But is this actually what he said? Because I think I'm almost positive it's what he said. But you can't be too careful. And I have all the transcripts, so I grabbed them all. Little AI robots can do anything. You just have to program them right.
Can they see why kids love Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Yes. They see right through you.
I've got the new one that we have at my work. I've caught it more or less lying, I want to say 2 or 3 times now.
Oh,
and
no.
Yeah, I've been a little irritated with that. Like it's put information that was flat out not like it's supposed to just kind of give short little summaries of things and then also provide a title for it. And it has flat out given information that was not in the text multiple times now.
Invented, hallucinated. I love it.
So I that's going to be an interesting one.
It
But
seems
for
like a pretty serious problem if it's doing the job and then it's doing it so poorly that you actually have to go in and correct it constantly and
All
can't trust
AIs,
it.
yeah, all AIs have that. So that's why you use them for things like research.
yeah,
Because
it's
if
just
it's gathering and organizing information, it's very good at that. And once it's organized, it's really quick to check it. Whereas if you had to do the gathering and the organizing up front, that would just take way more time. So if
Yeah.
you're really clever about how you use AI, you can use it to a great advantage. But you have to know what it's good for and what it's bad for and all that as well.
Yeah. And thankfully in this application, like it is technically faster to correct the AI than to correct the things that it's compiling the information for. But I just have to always go knowing like, yeah, this is an unreliable tool. And so, but at the same time, I have had human beings do that same job and still make mistakes, right? So now they didn't put information that wasn't there. That's a new problem, right? But I still, the same amount of effort of having to go behind and kind of correct that is still
it's
kind
like
of,
a coworker who's just occasionally drunk.
it's like
Yeah.
an
Very efficient, but
unreliable.
occasionally drunk.
It's like a teenage intern or something like that, where it's just like he's distracted. He was thinking about video games or whatever, and put something dumb, and then just I got to go and
Now,
correct it. But it's not enough for me to reprimand him.
this is something I've noticed. I've done a little bit of use with the latest OpenAI model GPT-4, and like they've made it so unctuous when you're using it. Right? Like,
Mm.
oh, fabulous question, and you're really onto something right there. So let me see if we can go ahead and figure this out here.
Mm.
Would you like me to put that into a Word document for you? I would be so happy to do that for you. Uh,
That's
and I think
insane.
I kind of like it because I want the robots to work for me. So I'm at peace with it, you know. Every once in a while, Isaac Asimov got something right, and he said that the robots on Earth, where there was strong anti-robot sentiment, had these perpetually cheerful and subservient-looking faces built into them because otherwise people on Earth wouldn't trust them.
Wow. Boy, that mirrors other things.
Yeah.
Mm.
Compared to the space colonies where robots were much more accepted.
That's fascinating. That's man. That's a deep pattern right there. I don't think he understood what he was writing.
Doesn't matter. He put it down. I remembered that from like 15 years ago. So yeah.
Fair. I can totally see him writing that, and not really understanding the significance of that. But I know the significance of that as a new Southerner. Yeah, that's wow. That's shocking. But it's all about, like, AI has totally destroyed education, right? Like completely wrecked it overnight.
Handwritten tests, in person, and oral exams. The only reliable things anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's what you want. But you also want trade school because,
Sure, yeah, because either the table stands up straight or it doesn't.
well, and I needed my windshield replaced, which it has been now. So that guy had to come and replace my windshield, and I'm glad he was there. Took him a little over an hour. Did a great job. Car works fantastic. So, and he might come and shoot my beavers. I'm like, oh, please come and shoot my beavers. He said, well, don't pay anybody to get rid of them. And I said, why? Do you know somebody who wants to shoot beavers or whatever? And he's like, yeah, me. I'm like, come on down. Like, whenever you get time. I got a tree stand. We got all kinds of stuff.
You got the tree stand and you haven't shot them yourself?
I'd have to go buy a weapon. I don't have a weapon.
All right.
I'd have to buy a weapon. I'd have to send someone to shoot in school too, if we're gonna have.
We'll just let John Boy do it, and he'll skin it, and he'll just have a good time.
Exactly.
Get some beaver nuggets or whatever The old
beaver nuggets.
whatever they used to cook
Look, you
out.
could just put it by the road and pretend it's roadkill, right? Like,
No, you can't
You
do
got
that.
run over by a
If it's
by a
on
bull.
private property, it's a nuisance animal. You can do whatever you want.
yeah.
But if it's on public property, now we've got rules, that's how the world should work. Like, sorry,
Yeah.
the rules should not be consistent across all stratum of society. That would destroy everything, because we've tried that before and it destroys everything. It's not that hard. Study a little history. You'll figure out the pattern there. Yeah,
I think,
it's
thankfully, it's not like England. I think they have some sort of thing where, like, you can actually never kill a badger or something
Yeah.
like that, even though they're horrific nuisance animals. And like, even if they're destroying your land and you have a ton of it, like you can never kill the badger. It's just not allowed.
I would never do such a thing. I assure you.
No, of course not. Yeah.
When is
never
England going to get their anti Henry VIII, who's going to anti Henry VIII that entire place?
Oh, I would back out the Henry VIII in that place in about 4 seconds for sure. Absolutely for sure. I would totally. That is something I would do. That because that is where it all went wrong. Like that, definitely getting rid of the monasteries so we could have a war. Like, come on, yeah. Noah, hey, good to see you, Noah. Yes, even if the badgers carry disease threatening your livestock. Yeah, no, they're nuts.
No.
Europe is nuts, and no one should live there. But yeah,
I wonder if they'd let you have a llama. So people will put llamas or alpacas in their sheep packs, and they get along just fine with the sheep. And if there's ever any like coyotes, they'll just go and pick the snot out of them, and then your sheep are safe.
Yep.
So
yeah, they make good.
I wonder if they
sheepdogs.
could kick the snot out of badgers, because they'd be a lot bigger and would have a reach advantage. But badgers are nasty, so I don't know how that would end.
Donkeys
I don't know
are
how
good
that works.
too. For like one-on-one battling. You know, you ever see those where there's like wild dogs and they've got like a support donkey with the flock, and it'll just run up to one of the wild dogs and like just bite its tail and flip it. It's just
Donkeys are mean when they want to be.
Yeah,
they
totally
can be
can.
really mean.
I normally only think like, oh yeah, it's kind of like you just got to stay away from behind them, but no, they use their teeth to pretty good effect, and they like to drag and throw things, but only one-on-one combat I think is their specialty. So you got to have like a lot of them, I guess.
Yeah, they would still be a prey animal. It would still be a prey animal to like a pack of wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah, donkeys are tricky. Yeah, RJ, donkeys are wild, bro. Yeah. Yeah, guard donkeys are a thing, and they're very handy. And see, it's stuff like that. They don't teach that in school.
No,
but they should. They should.
What they need to teach people in school is to never, ever, 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 ever try and pet a bison.
The fluffy cows? No, you should definitely pet a fluffy cow.
Go right in for the hug. Yeah.
No, this guy in outside of Vegas in Red Rock Canyon was telling us, because he worked for the parks forever. He was telling us his most wild story was they got called, a family from China had put their 4-year-old on top of a sleeping bison. And it woke up, and the kid held on for like, I think it was 7 miles.
Wow.
Before he fell off. And the guy that was with him had just won a rodeo. So he had his rodeo buckle with him. So he gave the kid the buckle.
Nice.
He was like, I don't know how long you were on that bison for, but a hell of a lot longer than I was on that horse for. And it's just like, and the kid was completely unharmed. Like, he was fine.
Yeah. I guess the kid would have the advantage of the bison really not seeing it as a threat. Like, it's really
didn't see it at all. It was on his back. The bison was just running away from the humans in that case.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Fluffy cows are cool, man. Have you
Yeah.
seen baby bison? Oh my god,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
so adorable. And they're so different colored. You're like, those can't be the offspring of those other things. They're completely the wrong color. But they are
You
cute.
guys ever see that one where there's some guy like adopted a buffalo as a pet and he would like carry it around in the back of his pickup? Like, he'd just be like, all right, buddy. He would just jump up into I guess he had like a ramp or something, and this giant full, they'd show like, oh, when it was little, like it would kind of ride around with them, but that's just like this full size adult male bison that's just like weighing
No,
down his
Castle.
suspension.
Bison.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I was way off. But
You got to say it right so people know you're a local. It's a bison.
Bison?
Yeah.
but local, what if I'm from Catalina Island? They
Like the dressing, the salad dressing.
exactly. What if I'm from there?
I thought no one lived
I
on
don't know.
Catalina.
There's people on Catalina.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
them. I've seen the people. But yeah, no, they have bison on that little island. Like they brought some over,
What?
and there's still bison on Catalina Island, and there's probably more bison than there are cars because you have to apply for a permit to get a car, and then you have to wait like 25 years to get approved. Or you could.
Why
just
would you bring the fluffy psycho cows out to Catalina Island?
I don't actually know, and thinking back on it, the boat ride is pretty long, so you gotta really want them there. But
Yeah.
How
they
long's
did
the
it.
boat ride?
I want to say it's like a good 45 minutes, probably. So
Wow.
yeah, so you had to haul at least one trip of a decent amount of bison to just go out there and be fluffy for a while, and then they were just there for who knows how long.
If you take them when they're babies, though, there you go.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
They're
mean
young
that's the strategy. But
I have a strategy. It's dark outside. I think I'm going to go to bed.
All right, Father. Good to see you. Thank you
dream
for
about
joining.
fluffy cows.
Good
Fluffy
night. Good
cows.
night. God bless you all.
Thank you too.
Oh my goodness.
Ugh.
That was a hoot. Here, let's go back to this mode. There we go. Now we're a little bigger.
I just can't stop thinking about fluffy cows now. I mean, he did this to me.
So what do you think, Castle, about, we'll say, your own education? Because I only discovered, we'll say, what educated me relatively recently when people kept asking me, like, how do you know this stuff? And I was like, what do you mean? How do you not know this stuff? Because I don't, like, it's just part of growing up, right? But then I figured out, oh no, I went to Boy Scouts. Oh yeah, I did that year in summer camp. Oh yeah, it's 4-H club, right? And I was like, oh, that's how, and I was playing in the water, right? So that's the that's the key to, quote, education, was participating in the world.
Yeah,
Do you have stuff like that?
I would completely agree. I want to say, in terms of formal classroom education, I learned very little, if anything. I can remember maybe when I was in 6th grade, I attended the local college had some math classes that were open to anybody. So I attended a couple of those, and I learned a decent bit, but it wasn't necessarily learning math. It was actually just learning how to learn. And the guy was a very eccentric looking guy, and his behavior as well. But the guy, everything he said completely clicked. It was absolutely amazing. So I wound up learning how to learn math a lot better. I still generally don't do math because I still have yet to actually find much application for it. But aside from that, I mean, everything from, I did most of the different types of sports, and I did a lot of volunteer work. I mean, my resume starts at 9 years old,
Wow.
and so like a lot of stuff. So I had work history. And like this volunteering was not just going to do, it was like 10-hour shift volunteering multiple times a month type of thing in between school. And so that was where I got a lot of people skills. I learned public speaking doing that type of stuff. There were lots of other little things, but most of it, things from just doing art or sports and all that stuff was all extracurricular. I got really into reading and writing, not through school, which actually I wound up completely losing my enthusiasm for reading and writing until I want to say from between the age of 12 or 13 until about a couple months ago. And like not even during the Moby Dick book club, but did I have that back? I'm actually really enjoying reading again now. But I used to be able to demolish like a 150 page, 200 page book in a day in fifth
Yeah,
grade
that's not learning.
yeah, no, it's not. But the purpose of it was that I was extracting elements of that because it was a creative writing thing. So we would go and we would actually it was part of this little summer program, and we would play sports together. And then we after sports and like we would have lunch and then we would go play sports and then we would come back and we would do creative writing. And then when we were dismissed, we had homework, and that homework was generally to read an entire book, and then that informed the structure of what we were going to be doing the following day. And so that was just the homework stuff. And a lot of times, like you would just sit there and kind of read while you're waiting to be picked up, or whatever, finish it at night, and then you would come back, and then it was all participatory to the point where they had us making like designing new board games and stuff like that, and then actually like testing it out and having people you would actually pitch it as if you were doing a sales pitch, and then sometimes you could even like kind of try play testing it and everything. So that was very different from that would have been maybe like a 2-month program or something like that. So I got more out of that than any sort of writing or literature.
Yeah, well, of course,
class
you can't learn those other ways.
No.
Vantike, Mark, did you talk earlier about the proper function of universities? Well, I mean, they don't have one, so I don't know. Like, how do you do that? Look, universities are not for you. And that's the proper function is not yours, right? They're for the noble class, period. And they're for the people who can't work with their hands and do anything useful in the world. That's what they're for. If you want to understand that better, I have a whole video on academia and its collapse, and that's where I go into that better, we'll say. I like universities, with very few exceptions, universities shouldn't exist. I'm sorry. The whole thing is a bad idea. A flat out bad idea. It's based on bad principles. It's a corruption of the monastery, and it's taking a function of the monastery out of the monastery, right? Because we destroyed all the monasteries, and trying to inject it in a useful way in society. And the function of academia, not the universities, they're just a product of academia, is important, but it's basically for people with misplaced empathy. And that's what it is. And so you have to keep those people there for their own protection and the protection of the world. And the problem is, in the age of gnosis, with knowledge as propositions as the highest value, we are now worshiping, right? This is when people talk about the priestly class of the universities. We're now worshiping these things we call experts or whatever. And that's part of what's destroying the world. So we need to cut that out because we've elevated universities up to this important, valuable thing when that nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing. That is as far from reasonable reality as you could possibly get. They are there to protect a certain type of person from the world and protect the world from them, right? And still extract usefulness out of them because they can be very, like, we need them. First of all, like, we just need people. But there is a valuable contribution they can make, but it would only exist in the context of academia, right? And the manifestation of that is primarily, but not entirely, universities. So some of academia gets taken up by research facilities and think tanks, for example, right? Where people who can't think nicely about the things closest to them go to be sheltered from the world. And I'm working on, although Castle's going to kill me when he hears this, I'm working on an article for Substack about this, about what the AI took out of my article, which I'm a little pissed off about, but that was my own fault. I was using AI to organize an article, and it gave me this crappy suggestion. and I said, well, I'll try the AI suggestion to remove this section. And now I'm like, I don't like that suggestion. But then I discovered that, in fact, I could write a different article with that chunk. AI doesn't do any writing for me because AI can't write to save its ever-loving soul. Or if it had a soul, it couldn't do that. So I hope that explains university and I didn't piss you off too much. Sally Jo, facts less than structure. Domains are needed, and respect for different domains by different domains would be better. Yeah, well, just recognizing different domains in the age of equality here, with equality doctrines popping up, everybody should be an expert at every domain because there's lots of domains and they all need to be equal. And it's like, that's not the world we were born into. Ixnay, universities for people obsessively caring about things not around them. Yes. Yes, if you saw my academia video, you would know that. They have misplaced empathy. And I had forgotten this. And then I had an experience where I remembered it very suddenly. Very suddenly. Right. Peterson talks about this as outgroup preference. There is an outgroup preference. Academics, not everybody in the university, because a lot of people go to the university don't belong there and shouldn't have gone. But academics, true academics in particular, have a preference for people far away from them. And they actually don't care about people close to them. And they don't understand people close to them, but they believe they understand people they've never met and are never going to meet who live in countries that they'll never visit. That's the pattern. And that pattern is very clear. Vanticay, I'm not pissed off, just questioning my life choices. Look, man, we were all psyoped into this belief that knowledge is the highest value and that knowledge is conveyed by propositions and that is something worth pursuing. And I'm sorry that happened to you. And I still think I'm a genius for not going to college this whole time because I was early to that party. And yeah, I mean, if you're the type of person who cannot care about people around you, then you should be in university and go into academia. But if you're not that type of person and you're suffering from a meaning crisis or you feel domiciled or whatever, then yeah, I would get out of the university as quick as possible and like go be a car mechanic or something. Like seriously, go work for Safelight and replace my windshield. Although it already got replaced, so maybe
always do it again. Yeah, the misplaced empathy thing is interesting.
Don't bother, just do better with what you've got. Yeah, I mean, you can always leverage whatever you get. It's not like ranchers don't also go to college, and bone up on agriculture and then come back home and ranch, right? Because that happens. So yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of value to be had in that system, but you have to be leveraging it towards something physical in the world. Because if you're not leveraging it to something physical in the world, we're going to get into sticky territory quick. And the problem is there are people who can, and they're unbelievably rare, and you ain't one of them just because statistics says you're not. And also, if you were, you wouldn't be here. Like, it's a filter. I can say for sure the type of people that watch this. It's not that hard. And there's a double filter, right? Because if somebody comes around who agrees and knows and is part of that system, they're not going to disagree with me. They're going to boost my signal, right? So the world is full of very skewed signals, right? Towards the negative, right? Because people who agree, maybe they'll boost the signal, but maybe they'll just go, yeah, of course, and move on. And so you really don't see that kind of momentum. Another video I have on navigating patterns, momentum, excellent video. I got to do the hierarchy video. I got to get the animation done too, but maybe I'll sit down tomorrow and do that. Now that I'm not deathly ill and the 4-part monstrosity of how to notice charlatans is over. Part 4 is in editing, so it'll be out soon. The all 4 parts are worth watching just to see the devolution of the conversation and how I rip it apart with the one skill I have the most of, unfortunately for me. Yeah, I mean, look, pursuing knowledge for the sake of knowledge is no good. pursuing knowledge for the sake of job is no good. Like these are just wacky ways to think of the world, and we've been told to think of the world that way, and now we have a problem. And I'm not surprised, right? And I'm doing my best to kind of fix it. But you got to watch videos on my channel and wait for the board game and the book. The book's coming. The book will be released, as I mentioned earlier, after Labor Day. It looks like we're powwowing on marketing strategies now and setup. We got to get. There's a bunch of technical stuff that we have to set up. So we are working on that, and then we will be onward to the board game, and that will be coming next. So it looks like we have somebody who's anxious to help us with that. So that's good. We can sell a zillion copies and make $1 trillion, and everybody's life will get better.
Absolutely.
RJ insists life sets people up. Life does not have agency. So you can always rebel against your parents and drive halfway across the country and get lucky, like Alex Hormozy. It's a fascinating story, actually. Sally Joe, for things to be less good than they could be, it's unnecessary suffering. That's intolerable. The regular suffering is fine. Yes, that is true. I like that, Sally. Yeah. Regular suffering is good enough. I call that struggle. But yeah, I think when you increase your struggle, that's probably suffering. There's some non-optional suffering, but most suffering is completely needless. Yeah, and the key is really to get out and participate and fix cars. Like I know how to fix cars. I know how to use chainsaws. I know how to sail boats. All kinds of things. Like it's not that hard. Fanta K, I got a math CS undergrad, which is a bit limited in its application. No, it's not. Like you can do the whole world with that. I was too skeptical about the system to go right into grad school. Yeah, I mean the people I know with math CS degrees do fine. I don't know because they can go into anything. I mean you can enhance any engineering with those two skills, so it's not limiting at all. You have to look at it correctly. Like if you're matching job skills to college or to degrees, you're screwed because like I don't know what the landscape looks like now, but even 20 years ago, I never met anybody at all who was doing something that had anything to do with their degree. Like at all. Anybody. Right? So it's like your degree does not match a job. Like that's not how the world works. You go to college to show that you can complete work successfully and cooperate with others. That's why you go to college. If you try to do anything else, that's what RJ, dude, you can make tons of money in cybersecurity with CS degree. Yeah, well, cybersecurity is huge right now. Sally Joe, or just be Dutch. Either are legal on Discord. Oh, there you go. Discord's very handy. Sally Joe, join the Discord and lament with us. Then help us make things better. Yeah, exactly. Everybody should come on the Discord and help us with all our projects. They'll get done quicker if I don't have to try to do them alone when I keep getting sick. Right, Castle?
Yes.
You've done an excellent job, man. You're a rock star.
Thank you. We just need to get you
at the right time because we lost our 2 other rock stars. So,
yeah, I missed them as well. But even still, well, Sarah's a rock star. She's doing that.
I know.
Did she come up with the? Did she come up with the idea? She is. Did she come up with the idea for that last video titled "The Logical Autopsy," or was that you?
No, she did that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I saw that. That was pretty fun.
I don't have time for that. I can't be bothered with all this nonsense. I usually toss her some ideas, basically, but yeah. And then she's using the AI for some of that, which is what it's good. Like the AI is really good for that stuff. Like really good.
Yeah, no, she sorts through it really, really well.
Sally Joe, money is worthless without knowing what to apply it to. It can be vexing. Yep. RJ, Sally Joe's a rock star. Well, obviously. I mean, she did all this wonderful artwork, for example.
Yeah.
So yeah, she did this wonderful artwork too. So like, yeah. Rockstarism confirmed. Ah, that damn light. One of these days I'll fix my lighting in here. Oh, I just need $1 million so I can buy a Vanticate. Okay, I'll hop on the Discord. Yeah, Mark of Wisdom, hop on the Discord. Oh, good. Well, we like to encourage people. I'm glad you're finding this encouraging. We fix people problems, so come be fixed. If you're brave enough.
But yeah, I mean, the fact is that even if, like, to your guys' point, his education background is solid, right? But even if it weren't, right, like even if it was, what, like dance theory or something like that, that the fact is that I think of some of the people that I've met, and it's like, well, there's one guy that I work with who he is currently the department lead for a network operations center. And his job before joining the company, now he didn't always have this job, he worked his way up, but his job before joining this company was working at Subway, right? And so it's like he started with that, and he had technical experience, but a lot of that was hands-on stuff. I'm not sure if he really had much schooling, but he started out as like an on-site tech, and he applied himself. He was driving across states in a van that had no AC, years ago, hauling computers to onboard new client sites and stuff like that. And now he's working 100% remote, runs, he's got a team of guys under him and everything. And that was a span of between 7 and 8 years or something like that. So you have that. And then, I saw another lady, I forgot her name, man, but I met her this one time, and she studied to be a lawyer. She passed her bar exam, and she got started at a law firm, and she was there for like 6 months to a year and realized that she hated it, right? So all of that time and money, and she absolutely hated her career. And so she left, and she became became a museum curator.
Yeah.
And then I think she got bored of that, but she liked some of the skills that overlapped between them, as kind of far-reaching as those two things were from each other. And then she became a consultant, and she's making a lot more money that way. And it's like, well, yeah, she was able to synthesize a few things from these wildly disparate things that she got involved in, that she had capacity to do. And then she wound up seeing an opportunity, and then she ran with it. And she, as far as I'm aware, I think I checked on what she was up to like a year ago, and she's still rocking it, It's like sometimes, but to Sally's point as well, there's something about things being difficult to apply without momentum, and sometimes it's necessary to even do something that you're not happy with, or you just at least to build that momentum,
Right.
and actually have some. That's where these little things, little bits of structure, even like, oh, always make your bed in the morning. It's like, yeah, that's a little bit of building momentum. Get those small wins in, keep the structure, and then that way, when you're able to maintain that across time, then you're also not having to start over every day. Then you've got a steady amount of momentum even outside of the workplace, and then you can kind of keep on building on
When
that
you
side.
can redirect momentum. So if you put your momentum into the wrong thing, like getting a crappy degree, you can redirect that somewhere else, and it's fine. Like it's not a lost cause or anything, right? You just have to do that carefully. But you can learn how to do that. And then once you know how to do that, like there's your superpower right there. Right. So momentum is very important.
Yeah. And that's for sure, even practicing that in microcosm, again, like in the home, where it's just, don't let yourself go. And like, if you take a few days off from work or something like that, don't let yourself just be a slob, for the entire time, and don't take a shower and just lie around and do absolutely nothing. To make sure that you're actually continuing to do stuff, washing the dishes, maintaining things and stuff. That way, like, you're not allowing yourself to lose that necessary momentum, because you can get rusty pretty quick, but just as easily you could build up these little things.
Right. Yeah, and it's the direct participation in the things you can easily directly participate in that matter. Right? Because that's what builds the momentum. Once you have the momentum, you can redirect the momentum, right? And then momentum begets more momentum for some weird reason. And when you learn these things by participating in them, that's what you can use to leverage the book learning, if you will. That's how it's leveraged, ultimately. But you have to do things, as Sally Joe, learn how to do it through failure. Yeah. You only learn through failure. If you didn't fail at like writing a piece of software, you didn't learn anything. It's that simple. First fail at omelets and then fail at real estate. Good job, Sally. Sounds a little bit too personal to me, Sally, but sure. Not wrong. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem is people are afraid to fail or they want a certain outcome and they're not ready to do the right thing. And yeah. RJ, maybe not real estate. No, absolutely real estate. All the people I know who started with nothing made all their millions of dollars in real estate. So I don't know. Yeah, yeah, Sally Jo. Then fail at social activities and just keep failing until you're not failing anymore. Right. Yeah, you run out of things. Like I've started something like 16 businesses in various capacities. And yeah, I like to tell people like, yeah, none of them were successful, but also I know all the mistakes now.
Yeah.
So eventually they'll run out of mistakes and it'll hit. But yeah, and that's yeah, nope, absolutely learn by owning. Right. No, you can always afford to fail. People fail all the time. You have to fail. If you don't fail, you don't learn. And if you don't learn, you're stuck. And if you're stuck, that's fine, you're stuck. But you will fail. That's the other problem. Like you try not to fail and then you have a collapse and it's catastrophic. If you have controlled failures where you can control roughly how much you're going to fail and be okay with it, that's fine. Like if you read Nassim Taleb, he'll tell you, like if you're investing in the stock market, the key is not to make money. The key is to lose as little money as possible because eventually you will make money. Right. He flips it. I was like, yes. The key is to not lose all your money. That's the secret to investing. It's no other secret. That's the whole trick. People think of it backwards. And as long as you don't think of it backwards, you're fine. Right?
Yeah.
Sally Joe, learning is expensive. Mark taught me this. Yeah, learning is expensive. That's true. Definitely learn more with the fail house than with the success house. Right. Exactly. And you need that learning. And you should do it while you're young because people will forgive you and help you when you're young. And it's much harder when you're older to get people to help you when things happen. So yeah, you can't. And if you're afraid, I mean, then you're ruled by fear. And if you're ruled by fear, you ain't learning nothing anyway. All the failure in the world won't help you. You've got to go into it with a positive attitude about, I know I'm going to fail at this, but can't wait to see what I learn. And then success will follow.
And you said before this thing of that learning is all cost, and it's like it's absolutely true. Like it's an investment, and also and to the statement about some can't afford to fail. For one thing, I fail for free all the time. So that's not an issue. I don't have a problem finding opportunities.
I don't even write a bill. Everywhere. I just fail and nobody gets a bill. It's amazing. There it is. No invoices sent.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Hyper efficient, but so
hyper efficient.
And so that's the thing, I mean, you're always going to have some sort of thing, but that's also where, again, I keep harping on it, but fail at a bunch of little things. And then, of course, you're going to wind up saying, oh, well, I'm pathetic because I couldn't even do this little thing. And it's like, yeah, exactly. But that's also how you build up that tolerance so that you don't have that feeling of, oh, I can't afford to fail. And it's like, no, I just do this all the time. That's not going to be an issue. And then to your point, like you're hopefully actually observing what you're doing and not just suffering stupidly, Maybe it's also okay to ask for help. Like maybe someone's just better at that thing and you can save yourself the trouble. But if you're really trying to be, successful, and it's also okay to build up over time. I mean, that's something a lot of times what people do, and like I'm doing this, is that you use one occupation, you've got your day job or whatever, and then use that to fund the other thing that is failing and succeeding in alternating intervals over and over again. And that means that you're going to wind up having to sacrifice certain luxuries or make certain compromises or whatever. But I mean, it just kind of depends on how much do you want it. You know?
Right. Well, RJ, I meant financially one big attempt. Yeah, so did I. But you're still missing it. So anyway, education is less than demonstration. Yeah, well, look, demonstration is the thing that's exemplified for you that you can mimic. And in that Hormozy talk that's in the important videos channel on the Market Wisdom Discord server, Diary of a CEO is the YouTube channel and the podcast name. He goes through this pretty clearly. Actually, it's just funny that everyone's talking about the same thing in different domains and they're using the same language. This is correct because I knew this was going to happen. So, yeah, as things collapse, as things reform effectively, like we're getting the reformation from the Reformation, which is a complete disaster. So I think we're finally. It's one of the things I like about Pastor Paul Vanderklay. He talks about, when will the protest end? It's a good question. So even he sees it, right? He sees, oh, this isn't sustainable. This is coming to a swift end. It might have started back in the 1500s or whatever, but it's not going to last. It's running out of gas. What does the world look like after that? Well, we've got to reestablish the class system. That's going to happen. The question is how, and how is that done? But education was that was a mistake, or at least modifying the term and making it about something different. It's weird too, because I saw all this. Like, they were talking about it for years. I don't know if they still talk about it, right? They would say like, oh, well, education begins in the home. Really? Thanks, genius. Like, everything begins in the home, you moron. But sure, Captain Obvious. I'll take that under advisement. Everyone's retarded. This is the problem. You just think about things backwards, and then they go backwards to re-inject the thing that, had you started from the right point, you wouldn't have needed to re-inject. But sure, I guess education begins at the home. I guess it should only happen in the home, you moron. But sure, we'll just pretend you can educate people in a school. How's that? Ugh.
Yeah, it's just there's so much of this middle out stuff that is very frustrating. But I do find like the thing about the reforming the Reformation thing, like the double negative does help a lot. And I tend to find like I don't like the whole apologetics or debate approach by any means. But if someone is super into propositional details, a lot of times just taking the thing that they're attached to. Because a lot of times it has to do with somebody choosing a lower good over a higher good. Like that tends to be what it is. It's just like, I really want this thing. And so like, yeah, I don't want to have to step back and do all this. I don't want to have to do any of those other things. I want this and I want to hold on to it the whole time. That a lot of times, I mean, if there's any truth in the thing that they already have, you can just kind of point at it there. Because unfortunately, because of that like tunnel vision that they get, a lot of times there's kind of lack of reading comprehension, or they're taking certain things on the authority of somebody else who had very bad reading comprehension, or who had lack of information. And then there's just momentum going on for years and years. And I think that's a huge advantage of this like age of gnosis thing, as you called it, that even though it's a major corruption, you can really easily flip it on itself, because if there's something that had momentum for a long time that started before that and it was bad, then a lot of times it was a case of somebody just couldn't read something or didn't read something. And then you can go back to the original source, not the newspaper version, but the actual original language. So if it was in French, like directly translate from that. And then a lot of times you can just point that out. Like I had a really solid interaction with a close friend of mine who there were some things that he's very gentlemanly, respectful, especially in serious matters. Like we can really have a serious but strong disagreement on something, and not just agree to disagree. Like actually, really squeeze the juice out of that orange. And something that we wound up having is we had it was a minor disagreement, or more so, he presented some challenges that he had with a certain historical concept. And so I actually went, and I knew that he was coming from a background where it is very much, the family is very kind of like sola scriptura type of, background and everything. And so I actually just flat out gave actual references that he himself could look at. And
Right.
he was like, "Thank you very much." Like, that's really useful. Wasn't aware that these are there. And I was like, "Yeah, most people don't know this is there. That's why it's necessary to have the references." And like that, actually, just there was no issue after that. Now, some people are just kind of proud and not willing to do stuff. And it wasn't even like
Right.
I wasn't even attacking his position. I was just like, "Hey, have you considered?" And then here's some references. And it's like, "Oh, we'll just take a look at that." It's not long to read at all. And then we kind of came to similar conclusions. But a lot of times it's he said, she said, whatever.
Yeah, but that's the Jordan Peterson trick, or one of them, right? Is that he can show you the flaw in the logic, reason, rationality trap, and then give while giving you a way out at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't like apologetics, because apologetics, you're already stuck in the frame, and you're bad at that. Like, don't do that. Like, this is Christian apologetics is the dumbest thing. It's like you guys are terrible at this. I think this you're just all bad at it, because you can't be good at it because your assumptions are different.
Mm-hmm.
And you're very fooled by people using similar sounding words, right? You think they're talking about the same concepts, and they're absolutely 100% not. And that's why Peterson can do what he does, and people that try to follow him or copy him can't, because they're not doing the same thing at all, right? I mean, first of all, he's not a Christian. He can't do Christian apologetics. So apologetics has been around a long time. It's been completely ineffective. So, other than the random thing, but like random things happen all the time. So who cares, right? And then people don't realize that. And then we've made an education system around that. Like, you can get a degree in apologetics, which
Really?
I'm just like, yes. Yes. I'm just like, why would anybody think that this is a good idea? And I understand, like, yeah, it's having some rhetorical skills and having we'll say the highlights of what you need to use against sola scriptura or something, or against atheism, is important. Like, I understand that. I'm not opposed to that. But what are you doing? And then Peterson comes along and freaking mops the floor with all y'all. And then it's like, well, I don't even know I don't know what you're doing. I have no idea. Peterson did something far cooler, far better, and more significant, but then they're not picking up the pieces, which I went over that earlier. Like, that actually bothers me. But hopefully our game will. That
would be good. I'm looking forward to playing.
Game is cool. Have you looked at the game outline?
I looked at it a month and a half ago or something like that. Like when you first put it up. Okay.
Well,
yeah,
I made one
read
edit. It's a very small edit, and it was mostly for the AI to not screw something up.
Okay.
Which I think fixed the one problem that I found with the mechanics.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. If I can build one game, I want to build a game that we designed a million years ago in New Jersey on a trip. Also, because I have the stuff somewhere. I'd have to dig it up, but like we outlined the whole game, my uncle and I.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like if you've ever played Easy Money, and if you haven't, then you're not a real boy yet. Yeah, it's like Easy Money or Monopoly. Easy Money is just a better version of Monopoly, but it's a lot like Easy Money. But it has all these. It has hierarchy in it, basically. Like, it's so funny. I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, all I did was add hierarchy to that cool flat thing, and I'm like, I've been doing this my whole life without even realizing, like, what's going on. It's just part of my existence is hierarchy. I'm like, yeah, I understand hierarchy. Like, this is ridiculous. Peterson doesn't, but he uses the word a lot, so I guess that's okay. I'd love to explain hierarchy to him and see what he says. I'd love that. That would be great. Because I'm sure he has no idea how it works. Like, because he never talks about it. He just uses the word. And people think he talks about it. I'm like, he never discusses hierarchy.
No.
He just talks about some of the effects and where you can see it, but like he doesn't describe what it should look like, what's a good hierarchy, what's a bad hierarchy, right? He doesn't apply it within the realm of human beings very well. Like he doesn't talk about any of that. So
that and emanation for sure. Like recently,
Yeah.
I've been kind of on a tear, maybe the last week and a half, 2 weeks, just noticing that there's a bunch of stuff I've been reading, and I'm just kind of swapping some of the words for certain things that are kind of generally negative for, oh, this is just talking about emergence. And so there's a bunch of stuff in these old writings about like, oh, yeah, you know, you're supposed to be avoiding these particular like lower things. And it's like, no, it's not because they're, you know, necessarily bad in themselves. It's just that they're disconnected. And
Right.
so you're like, oh, this thing, you know, this particular quality emanated, or there's a certain structure that's emanating down on this thing. And then now I'm looking at this thing as if it like kind of self-generated that or something. And it's like, no, if you want to continue to have that thing, you need to recognize that the structure emanated on that. And so don't put all of your attention on this thing, or else you're going to run out of that thing. Like if you actually want it, you shouldn't be only fixated on that. And that was something that, when I went back and listened to the first couple chapters of 12 Rules for Life, I was like, yeah, it's all like there's so much emergence in there that
all
I was
emergent.
just, oh, it's so rough. It is very painful, and to notice that there's so much of it, whereas I never noticed it the first time I went through years ago. You know.
Yeah, I got to get that book club rolling. But man, I was so sick for 2 weeks. It's like, so I might get that rolling. We'll
If
probably
it
do
makes you feel
Saturdays.
any better, your being sick has been very convenient for my schedule. So
Oh, that's good. That's good. No, I'm thinking of just filling the language of creation space, maybe bump it an hour so it's 2 p.m. Eastern or something.
yeah, that'll be good.
And just because then I can get in my lunch and then jump into 12 Rules for Life, 2 chapters a week, 6 weeks. Lots of fun.
Yeah. Will we actually be reading the book, or should we are you going to do like the Quora post?
Oh, no, we're going to do the book.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do the book. We're just going to do 2 chapters every week for 6 weeks. I've got it all outlined. There's actually a document. I can put you on it if you want. I've got a Google Doc. I had the AI summarize it for me. I was like, hey, this got because it's good for stuff like that. Like if you have a structured text and you need it, like, oh yeah, it's fantastic for that. And then I've been sort of struggling with my laziness. Like I could go and read the book and do the curriculum now and then announce it. Or I could do what I always do, which is just read it just before and
the day of.
and do it on the fly. Because I'm actually much better on the fly sometimes for certain things.
Yeah.
I'm way better on paper if you're planning a big tech project.
Yeah.
But all this other stuff, I seem to be really good on the fly instead of planned out. Like I'm still amazed that I'm illiterate. So that still has me. Well, yeah, I mean, I wrote the, the channel introduction videos. So I wrote a script for that, and that kind of worked. But my first few videos, I actually tried to script them because that's what they say. Like, oh, you write a script, you find the script, you read the script, do it over. Blech. I can't read my own scripts at all. It's bad. And I was like, I'm illiterate. Who knew? I can read everybody else's writing, but I can't read anything I wrote. Yeah, I cannot stick to. It's not even that I can't actually read it. It's hysterical, completely hysterical. I'm like, well, I guess I learned something about myself there. So I only partly, I do outlines, right? A lot of the monologues, a lot of the early monologues too on the live streams are written out. They're not entirely scripts, but they're written out pretty extensively. I followed them pretty closely. But now I just do bullet items and things like that, or copy entire etymologies into my document and read them off.
I appreciated that.
With it, yeah, it was important with this one. I like doing that. I like doing those sorts of things for the live streams. I think it's really important. I like keeping the recorded videos pretty separate with different approach to the same sort of material. I think that's really important.
Nice contrast.
Yeah, well, I think some people will listen to live streams, monologues, and some people will listen to recorded videos, and some people will go for the history stuff, right? So I don't know if that's true, but that's my sense, and it's my channel, so I get to experiment however I want. Kind of an
Seems
adventure.
accurate enough to me.
And the number of people starting their own channels and just having no clue, and number of people hosting conferences, even like Critical Drinker. I love Critical Drinker, but my God, man, you have to learn to like pick somebody to go next when they talk. Like, no one wants to run anything. I'm like, no, you have to run things with structure and tyrannize the discussion. Sorry, just part of how the world works. Like, you can't do it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I'm looking forward to when I have a book club that I'm going to be running at the end of September. And and so I'm very excited about that. But I'm going to be applying a lot of the skills learned in these book clubs, and I'm very excited about it. But something that at the same location, somebody previously ran a book club this year, and I think I might have mentioned this to you, and it was interesting that a lot of the people are academic background. I really like the point about like the misplaced empathy type of thing, because a lot of times it's not focused on the in-group. A lot of times I try to talk to academics that I'm planning certain things with, and they're great at a lot of stuff, but they're not super concerned about like security, for example. Some of these things, they're not really that interested. They're more interested in drawing more people in. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that they're kind of more focused on that.
Yeah.
And something, a lot of times I'll present something that's maybe a little bit more on the pessimistic side, just to kind of prepare, like, what if you run into this type of thing? Not Debbie Downer, like, you're going to make it happen. It's going to be good. But just, just in case people are a little weird, or, people get a little too handsy with the food, like, can you, portion them out so that there aren't people just grubbing on things, like little stuff like that. And, you hear things like, oh, well, these people aren't going to be like monsters or whatever. And it's like, probably not, but you only need one to ruin it, right? So
That's right. That's right.
Some of these things. And then they had that at their book club, that somebody showed up and there wasn't enough structure. And the person dominated the entire thing for about half an hour and turned it into their own therapy session. And that person actually had to be like removed, as politely as possible from the thing. And it's just like, yeah, it's unfortunately a lack of structure, like leaving the door open, let's flies in. Like, that's just it.
Yep.
It's just kind of how it goes.
Ixnon, an untyrannized discussion just goes in circles. Exactly. And when we don't have a good sense of things like education, because we're busy destroying all structures and all order and all formation and all like, oh, we got to tear the barriers down and the revolution is here and all this nonsense, we're destroying our ability to form ourselves and to form with others in a larger body. And that's part of that's the loss of poetic knowledge, and part of it's just our pure rebellion. And that's why it's important to understand why education is a psyop. And with that note, Castle, what closing statements do you have for this lovely live stream?
Yeah, I would just say really putting that emphasis, especially within the context of being having children in your care, whether they're yours or not, really having an understanding of the responsibility that's required therein. And certain things have to be outsourced, right? Like, you can outsource certain things, like, okay, well, I'm not going to change my tires, or I'm not going to change my oil in my car, or I'm not going to do the plumbing in my own house and whatever. And like, those are understandable things, but there comes a certain point that there's some stuff you can't properly outsource and get the desired result. And a lot of that includes child formation. And also, to a recent point you made, there is an active participation in your own formation, even as an adult, regardless of age. And that is something that really requires taking seriously, paying attention to it, and understanding that there is a responsibility there, and that it doesn't only affect you. So in the same way that people have gone and destroyed the universities and all these things by always kind of subdividing and subdividing over and over again. That same type of thing can happen to you in microcosm. You
Right.
can get your attention split into so many things, and in the same way, if you're in charge of people who are under your care, whether they're adults or children, but especially children, you have a responsibility to also, in a certain sense, tyrannize them and provide
Yep.
enough structure so that they don't get completely spread out
Right.
beyond their means. Because it's hard enough to maintain decent structure for yourself as one person, but and as a person who's an adult and has experiences and stuff, but even more so for someone that is more vulnerable, lacks experience, like the homeschoolers that you talk about, easily indoctrinated if they lack contrast,
Right.
and so also not providing that. The structure doesn't necessarily mean locking them in solitary confinement, but providing enough structure that is also varied enough so that they can get that proper contrast without getting overexposed to, say, the dangers, I guess, of the extremes of that contrast.
Falling Fade. I'm so sad I missed this. Dude, it's recorded. You can
You
go
can rewind.
watch it.
You can
as
listen
many
at
times as you
3
want.
times, 4 times speed, even if you got premium.
No, do not watch me for it. It's madness. Ixnop wanted the last closing statement I see. Ixnop, formation continues until death. That's why the world needs you to be better. I like that. I like that. That is well said, sir. And also, yes, the world needs you to be better. That's what makes the world better. You don't have to worry about freaking solving war halfway across the globe. You can just make your bed, clean your room, and all the things we'll be talking about in the Jordan Peterson 12 Rules for Life book club. Maybe I'll do an announcement on that tomorrow or Sunday or something. I don't know. See how I feel. Understanding formation and the importance of formation and things like responsibility that Castle excellently tied in there is super important, because it is, as Ixnon points out, an ongoing thing. And when we abdicate responsibility for helping others do that, because we can't form ourselves, that makes no sense. If somebody tells you can, they're a nutter, just get away from them. Then the problem that we run into is we get psyoped. We get controlled. We become NPCs because other people aren't helping us form. And we also can't form together. So they'll talk about the damn revolution, but they won't talk about, well, how are we going to execute the revolution? Well, that's a good question. We can't get along. We can't even agree on which version of the freaking Bible to use. Like, come on. How are you going to get along? Right? We can't agree on an interpretation of Plato's cave, which I have a video on. How are we going to get along? Like, all these things matter. And they matter a lot. And it's because of, if you will, the lack of education, or education becoming a way of psyoping people. So that's RJ. Why don't you do it, dude? You have power. So yeah, that's part of the issue, is that when we don't take education seriously as formation, we run into a problem. And the problem we run into is formation still has to happen. And it's still gonna happen. And if it's chaotic, you're gonna be chaotic. And if it's ideological, you're gonna become an ideologue. So you need to be careful, we'll say, what you expose yourself to, how you expose yourself to it, and when, where, and why. Right? And if you don't have, we'll say, what do I want to call it? The most important thing, then you're in trouble. You have to know what the ultimate goal or the end goal is in order to do the thing correctly. And we've lost that with education, or at least with the quote educational system that we have. And we need to get that back, we'll say, in our own lives. Thank you, RJ, for posting the link. You can join the Market Wisdom Discord server. We're there a lot of the time. Somebody's there. There's a lot to talk about. There's projects on there that you can help participate in. And there's documents that if you ask nicely, we can give you access to. Things like that. There's a ton of material. I want to get it all more organized, but I have to stop getting sick all the time. And be able to focus my energy for 20 minutes on any one thing ever. But that's getting better. So hopefully that will be a vast improvement. RJ, yes, I gave you a wrench so you could post links. We went over this last week. Somebody has a short memory. So listen, everybody, I appreciate you joining. Tell your friends. Threaten your enemies, whatever it takes. Still trying to grow the channel a little bit here. I know we've got headwinds because there's all kinds of, we'll say, algorithmic manipulation going on by evil forces, which I could name but will not. And I appreciate Father Eric coming on, and of course Castle coming on. And we'd love to have you on a future one too. And if you've got like ideas for these things, let me know, because I do try to incorporate people's ideas. Sally Joe usually just wins because she speaks up the most. And I may not do a live stream. I may do a recorded. I take suggestions for both. So I'm finally back, I think, on top here. We'll get the book club going. We'll get some other stuff going. We're going to release the book sometime after Labor Day, it looks like, once we get everything set up. So I appreciate everybody engaging. I don't see any problem with next week, so I should be here. I don't know what the topic will be yet because we haven't chosen it yet, but we will. And I want to thank everybody for their time and attention. And just remember to be better. The world needs you. Take care of yourself and each other.